What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Fourth and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel. Joining me, as always, is Ronnie Big Smooth Hennigan. Smooth, what's up, man?
Mel, not a whole lot, man. I'm doing good. It was a great weekend overall. Can't complain. What about you, man?
I, you know what? It wasn't a bad because it wasn't a bad weekend because one, college football is back. I'm happy, and the Browns beat the Cowboys. I'm not a Browns fan, but yesterday I couldn't help myself. I loathe Dallas so much.
I think a lot of
I'm
people do.
But here's the thing. I'm trying to figure out how they even got the name America's team because clearly this is the National Football League. So of all teams to pick in the National Football League, you decide to pick Dallas of all places.
You
Couldn't pick
know,
New York, couldn't pick
yeah.
Miami, you pick Dallas.
Not even the Patriots. You have a Patriot
Right,
name.
right.
Yes, yeah, I understand.
And they playing right now. They're actually the Patriots are actually behind 6-3. It's been a field goal game right now for the Chiefs and the Patriots, and Patrick
Ooh,
Mahomes just fumbled the ball. All right. With that being
right.
said, we like to welcome our guest today, the Red Dragon himself, but we know him as Scorpion, Chris Casamassa. Chris, how are you today, sir?
I am well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here. Okay, I as a martial arts fan, as a martial artist, I have to ask because for those that don't know, Lou Casamassa, your father, and he's a pioneer in American martial arts, especially American karate, because karate, one of the first martial arts to travel across from Japan to the U.S. And he basically set the trend or set the stone for what modern karate is today as far as Red Dragon Karate is concerned. So, what was humble beginnings like for you growing up under that umbrella, under his tutelage?
Well, growing up under it, you don't really realize all the coolness that's happening until I got much older and realized what he did and what he started. I just got in it because number one, I wanted to be around my dad. My dad was my hero, and he still is to this day. But number two, I wanted to do martial arts. I wanted to do what dad was doing. So, when I started when I was 4 years old, and he just said, "Hey, you can start, but you can't stop until you make it to black belt." And you're four, you don't get what that means, age four. So I was like, okay, dad, whatever. And that really just started my journey. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I really realized what he had created and kind of the empire that he had started to build. And I was like, wow, like no one ever. I grew up in it, so I was like, you mean everybody's not doing what we're doing? And he's like, no, no, they're not.
Oh,
So it was really eye opening for me.
Um, Now, how did you guys come up with well, how did he rather come up with the name Red Dragon Karate? Because I've always wondered, what led to the name and what was the story behind it.
Well, I'll tell you the story I was told. So uh, in the Asian folklore, there is a mythology about the dragons, and there are these five different dragons of different colors, and each one represents a different segment of society. So the five colors are green, gold, white, black, and red. So the green dragon obviously was supposed to protect the farmers and the farmland. The gold dragon protected the wealthy. In Japan, it's the opposite. At a funeral, they technically wear white, not black, which is different than what we do in America. So the white dragon was made to protect the spirits and those who had passed. The black was like all living things and all living creatures. And then the red dragon was the protector of all the other dragons. So it was like the most powerful one. So that's the story that he told me, and that's why he chose the name Red Dragon. Now, how true that is, I don't know, but it's a cool story.
It is a cool story, and I remember we're gonna touch on your time with WMAC Masters later on, but I remember you telling that story in the episode.
Yep.
So I was wondering like how is that really how they got it? Because if so, that is a cool story, and that is a cool story to pass down to children and just folklore in general.
Yeah. That's the one he told me, and so I'm sticking with it.
That's a fine thing to do. Um, okay, so You're part of Red Dragon Karate as a child. You grow up and you learn how big your father created something, and it's blossomed into, dare I say, a dynasty almost. Because there was actually a little birdie, not even a little birdie. He's a big cat, rather, who told us when he was on our show that you've trained many a student, and one of your students just so happened to be a Power Ranger.
That is correct. Yeah, Jason
So,
Frank, the original Green Ranger on the Power Ranger show, who has gone on to become the White Ranger. They're like he played every almost every Ranger, but he's
hey,
he was super popular, and obviously we trained him, which is awesome. He got to start in Red Dragon, so that gave him a little talent to pop through there. But he's an amazing superstar in his own right. But yeah, I had the opportunity to train him. He started with Red Dragon when he was, gosh, I think 10 or 11, and trained with us all the way up into his 20s. And then we got him the part on the show. Actually, I got a call from my agent, said, hey, they're auditioning. They need some teenagers, some young guys that they can be any age, but they got to look like teenagers for this new TV show called Power Rangers. So do you have anybody? And I go, yeah, I got this kid, Jason. He's really good. He's talented, good looking kid, young. Sent him down there. He got the part.
nice.
Wow.
But just for the record, now that we know this, we don't. I'm not gonna say we. I'm gonna say me. I don't despise you at all, but as a kid, I despise you for training the most dreaded Power Ranger enemy ever.
Man,
You have no idea how much we hated watching him wipe the floor with all of the Power Rangers as the Green Ranger
by himself
by himself.
with a
By
flute.
himself. A
Powered by,
flute he didn't blow.
he was powered by Red Dragon. I apologize.
See? Yep.
All's forgiven now, but back then, man, we hated that guy.
Man, seeing him convert was like one of the best things too, and then just harnessing that power, man. It was just great. It was
Mhm.
just great to see that part of
Now,
the show.
I'll tell you what was really upsetting. What was really upsetting was watching him beat your character in a episode of a show on YouTube called Superpower Beatdown.
Oh yeah,
I was flabbergasted. I couldn't. I had a lot of questions that did not get answered.
I will answer all
And
the questions. I got all the answers for you. We actually had them.
oh,
We actually had them shoot an alternate ending as well.
all the
And
alternate ending, but I was not happy with the original ending because
right. Well, a lot of people weren't, and it came down to a vote. And listen, he actually got to do that with them. So it was a little bit slanted towards his character anyway, because he was in it. They didn't ask me to do it because I'd have done it, and then it would have been even cooler for him and I to fight on screen, because we've never actually got a chance to work on screen together. We've worked off screen for years, but we never got to do it on screen. So they did shoot an alternate ending, but I tease him. I'm like, don't, dude. The only reason you won because I wasn't in it.
and you know what?
Like,
For some for some reason I have to agree because while we're on the subject of you being Scorpion, for those that do not know or just tuning in, go back and watch the movie Mortal Kombat. Don't watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation because you're not going to see a lot of what you saw in Mortal Kombat 1 as far as the story goes. But if you want to watch some great fighting, both movies have both. But the Johnny Cage and Scorpion fight, to me, arguably the best fight in any movie ever.
Oh wow, that's a big statement, my man. Thank you.
I mean, you know what? Again, I was a Taekwondo kid. I was a Taekwondo kid. I was a kickboxing kid. I was a ninjutsu kid. So for me, seeing karate and seeing you as a uh, karate instructor and a karate practitioner, it was different. And then watching the Johnny Cage fight, see it all come together, like man, I'm not so sure Johnny's gonna make it out of this tournament.
hmm And on top of that, like to add to it, that scene, hands down, probably had the most accuracy in terms of not only styles, but like the character themselves that we all love to play on the games. And then to see it play out like that was like, okay, we know that there's a little bit of, you know, computer graphics and stuff like that that are incorporated into this. But for me, at that time frame, watching that movie, it looked so realistic. Like it was just so realistic looking. Like this really could happen, and it wasn't like in comparison to some other scenes where you saw like Sub-Zero trying to create like the freeze and all of that. We just knew that wasn't happening. But the way that the spear came out and everything else, you couldn't tell me that was fake at that time frame when I was that young. Like it just looked so real,
Yeah,
man. I
it
mean,
did.
it completely got sold. Seriously.
Back in the day when my students used to ask me like, how did you do that thing with your hand? How did you I can actually make my hand open up and do that. Hired. They're like, really? I'm like, come on. Hey, thank you guys for saying that. I'll tell you a story. We really wanted to do it justice, and I got to give a lot of the credit to the producer, Larry Kazanoff. When he brought together the talent for Mortal Kombat, he really wanted it to be as authentic to the game as possible, because as you may or may not know, previously before Mortal Kombat came out, several other video game fight movies had come out in the theaters, and they all bombed, right? Double Dragon bombed, Street Fighter, I think there's Tekken. They were, for whatever reason, they weren't good. Great video games, horrible movies as far as the action and everything. Larry wanted it to be authentic to the game, and he wanted it to really do it justice, which worked in our favor for a variety of reasons. One, Hollywood didn't expect our movie to open as big as it did. They thought it was going to be another video game movie that was going to take. We were #1, I think, for like 5 or 6 weeks in a row, blew everybody's expectations away. And I give him a lot of credit for that, because especially for our fight and for hiring Robin Shu was a great cast, because he's a super talented martial artist. It was easier for him to bring in great martial artists and work around that than it was to bring in great actors and then try and double them and make it look, because then you get the cutaways and things like that. And even with Lyndon, like, to Lyndon's credit, like, he trained with me for a year after the movie. Like, he got into the martial arts so much, like, he made it halfway to black belt with me. And then he got another project. He was on Team Wolf. He was doing other stuff, but he really wanted it to be authentic. And he and I spent a lot of time together working on the fight scene to make sure that it was really close to the video game. Plus, I was a huge fan of the video game, right? It was the number at that time, like when arcades used to put quarters in them, and I would drive, 10 miles to go play that game. And my two favorite characters were Raiden and Scorpion, in that order. Okay, so I loved them both. So to have the opportunity to do Scorpion, I was like, okay, I've got his moves. I know how he's supposed to move on screen, and I wanted it to be as true to the game as I could make it.
And you did, and we appreciate the fact that you did, because as kids, again, seeing you jump from WMAC Masters to playing Scorpion, it was like, I think somebody been lying. He sold this character, and like, were you really? This is my question. Were you really taller than Lyndon? Because the scene where I'm not gonna say you sucker punched me.
We're about the same height.
Okay, because the scene where the fight starts in another room and you sucker punching.
Yeah, I'm standing on an apple box when they first come in and they can, and they think, and I say, welcome. I'm standing on a crate, so I look like way taller than him, and I punch him in the head.
Oh, man, that was awesome. I was like, man, he just for real stole on Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Okay, so we fast forward. We're going to fast forward to the 90s. We did jump ahead, way ahead, but fast forward to the 90s, and from Hakeem, we learned that you, him, Mike Bernardo, who was Turbo, are in a movie called Shoot Fighter. How did that come about for you?
Well, okay, so when I was a kid, like, Bruce Lee was my hero. Like, it was my dad and Bruce Lee. Those are the two martial arts icons I looked up to, and I wanted to do movies and TV shows. That was when I was young. I was like, I want to be a martial arts movie star. I want to do that. So, both, I was a few other people, but mainly Hakeem, Mike Bernardo, and myself, we all wanted to branch out into the movie business. And we were on the professional tour together. We competed on NASCA for a number of years. Hakeem was the #1 fighter in the country. Mike Bernardo was the #1 weapons competitor in the country. I was the #1 forms competitor in the country. So we all were #1 in our respective categories. And we basically got scouted. Like, producers from TV shows and movies would come to these events, big martial arts tournaments all over the United States. And they were basically cherry picking the top talent. And they would be like, hey, we're doing a movie. You want to do this, want to do that. And that happened to us. And it was actually the Battle of Atlanta where we met Pat Johnson for the very first time. And, he's like, hey, I'm choreographing this movie. You guys might be good for it. Come on out. And then Mike Bernardo actually ended up getting the starring role in it. And Hakeem and I had smaller roles in it. But it was from there. And that's where it starts, because a lot of people go, oh, my God, you did all these. Yeah, I did a bunch of big movies. I did Batman and Robin, Mortal Kombat, Blade. But I got my start in small films like Shoot Fighter and China O'Brien and Revenge of the Ninja, like where you're playing background guys and you're basically earning your oats and you work your way up the same way you work your way up through competition, the same way you work yourself up through martial arts, which is why when people ask, well, how did you do it? It's the discipline I learned in martial arts, from not giving up, going white belt to black belt, not giving up, becoming a background fighter, to moving to a stunt fighter, to moving to a main star. It's that same type of discipline that drives you forward.
Exactly. And it was just, reading your bio and learning everything. Like I knew you were a great fighter, but knowing that you were basically a great actor was something we never thought would more or less be something we heard about, because a lot of martial artists very humble, don't like to brag,
Mhm.
and you don't hear about that part. You usually have to find out from other people that you've been in these movies. And thanks to Hakeem, we learned that.
Yeah.
Because I'm still trying to get an answer to this. Whose idea was it for the heart rip out scene at the end of Shoot Fighter? I still need an answer. Nobody has been able to give me a great answer.
I can help you on that one. But listen, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that I'm a good actor. I appreciate that. I got some good advice very early in my career that served me well, and it was also from Pat Johnson, because he knew I wanted to get into the business, and he already knew, like, okay, so you're a talented martial artist, great. Those guys are almost a dime a dozen. Like, there's 10 other guys behind you that could be just as good, if not better than you. He goes, what's going to separate you from everybody else? And I said, well, I don't know. And he goes, I'll tell you what it is. In the movies, they can take a great actor and make them look like a martial artist, but they can't take a great martial artist and make him look like an actor. So take acting lessons. So I did. And I, went to school, acting school, and did that for, almost 10 years to be able to learn that craft. And that acting is a craft. It's like martial arts. Again, it takes discipline, it takes focus, things like that. So that's one of those things that really kind of help. That and teaching. Like I'm working with kids, I'm working with people all the time. So having a personality and trying to be on camera dynamic, those, again, is kind of a perfect storm of things that helped.
Now, with that, Chris, I have to know this too for myself. Like, with the different movies that you've done, and of course with the characters that you portrayed, would you say it was easier to do the stunt side of things or the actual acting in front of the camera? Because you made both of them look real easy to
Yeah,
us.
that's an easy answer. The stunt thing. The fight thing was way easier because, like, I don't even have to think about it. It's what I do. It's practically in my genetics.
Mm.
So that was always easier. But now that's a lot harder work. Like walking up to a camera and just saying lines and doing that's work. But that's not as much work as someone punching you and you're ducking, you're weaving, you're jump kicking, you're hitting the ground, you're bouncing back up. You get sore. And by the way, as you probably already know, we don't film those scenes once.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see a different angle, that's a whole nother setup and a whole nother time that we did it. And if a light bulb goes out, if somebody sneezes on the set, you got to do it all over again from the beginning. So that, for example, the fight scene that we did in Mortal Kombat, which ends up being, I think, maybe 4 or 5 minutes of screen time, we spent a month straight filming that. Every day, 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks.
Sheesh.
So that's a lot of work. That's work. But again,
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. For those kids watching, drama club is not going to be a bad thing if you want to be an actor.
Nope. It's actually the
not
best thing you could do.
I did that. I wasn't very good at it, but I did it in high school. I realized sports was my thing, so I should stick to it. But it's not a bad thing if you want to pursue acting.
Right.
Okay, so skipping forward to WMAC Masters. Oh, by the way, before I forget, for those that are watching again, here's another disclaimer. Pat Johnson is a very famous actor / martial artist. He is the referee in the very first Karate Kid movie where Daniel LaRusso kicks Johnny in the face at the end.
That's
so
right.
Pay attention to that.
See, you've done your homework, man. I like it, but I'll give you one better than that. In the movie Enter the Dragon, Pat Johnson is the thug that does all the talking when they go to get John Saxon and they try and get the money out of him on the golf course scene.
Wow. Okay.
Oh man, I gotta go back and watch that now.
Yeah,
hold
I was thinking the same thing. Now
that scene, that's some OG stuff right there.
Oh,
we
yeah, I'm checking that out.
used to ask him about that on set all the time. We used to go up to him and go, "It's the dough, Roper, or we gotta break something."
I was about to say that. I was just about to say that. That's crazy. I would never have thought that.
Yep.
So, okay, for those watching again, watch Enter the Dragon and watch The Karate Kid. You'll see him in these movies.
Yes, you will. Pat's legend.
I'm learning that now.
Yeah, and he gave Hakeem his start. He gave Mike Bernardo his start. He got me my start in the movies. He got Larry Lamb, who went on to do Leonardo in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. He got Clay Barber, who did Robin to my Batman in Batman and Robin. Like, Pat Johnson has launched a lot of careers for a lot of people.
And you guys have gone on to have great careers as well, because obviously him being the person that he is, he's basically shown that, as a martial artist, this is the way to go. Assuming you want to pursue acting, this is the way you want to go. And as long as you take it serious, it's there.
Yep.
So shout out to Pat Johnson. Hopefully, we get to meet more of his umbrella, because we're learning a lot about you guys right now.
Mm-hmm.
The talent pool is just deep.
I thought, if you thought the Nick Saban talent pool was deep, this is on another level, man.
Right.
Okay. I do have to ask, if memory serves me right, you were a Dragon Star champion, and I'm trying to remember this right. I think you beat Hakeem, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
What was the choreography like for that fight? Because we all know Hakeem is not a small person.
No, he's 6'5".
Yeah, by any stretch of the imagination. So how was that choreograph going? Was it hard to?
No,
was it hard?
It was. Listen, Hakeem is when you get the opportunity to work with someone who's super talented, like, it becomes easy. Like, it's never really work at that point. It's just, all right, the fight needs to flow here. What are your favorite moves? What are my favorite moves? Let's do them. All right, you hit me with this, I'm gonna hit you with that. And again, Pat was our fight coordinator on WMAC. So he was like, all right, this one, Chris got to win this one. Because I had fought him earlier in the show, in the earlier episodes, and Hakeem won. So he's like, Chris going to win this one. So you guys just work on it. And then we would show him some stuff. And he'd go, okay, but we need to add this and this for the camera angles. So listen, fighting any of those guys that I fought on WMAC, I got to tell you, it was easy and it was fun, because there were no low-level martial artists on that show. Like, the people that were on the show were all the top people in the industry at that time. So it made it a pleasure to work on it.
Clearly. And the fighting showed, the acting showed, and, just the overall vibe that we as viewers got from the show was like, yo, these guys are the real deal. And I thought it was cool when you did win the Dragon Star during the fight. You actually get knocked into the chair that the Dragon Star champion did, and he looked so comfortable. Then he realized it was still a fight going on, so it's like, oh yeah, I got to get back to that. So
we planned out that gag because when we were rehearsing, I actually tripped and I fell into the chair, and I talked to Pat and I go, hey, you know what? If he hits me into the chair, I can just sit in there and have a moment like, yeah, this is good. I could get used to this. And he goes, you know what? That's actually pretty funny. So we convinced the producers to do that, to put that shot in there.
That is awesome. They should have never canceled that show. We're still.
Oh, it was great.
And I will give you a little birdie insight. There is a rumor that show potentially could be coming back. with the
If they're
original.
not bringing, I was about to say, if they're not bringing the original cast back, I'm not going to watch it because I still
Yeah,
want to
I was like,
know.
it has to be
I
originality.
still want to know.
Obviously, they'll bring some new fighters, some new blood in there, but they'll also
Mhm.
do some original cast stuff. And you didn't hear that from me because I'm not one to gossip.
That's fine. I don't know what you're talking about, but just for the sake of
Right
discussion,
now, we're not live. Are we? Are we off camera?
no, this is off the air strictly.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Because I'm still having questions about what Tsunami was doing with Chiquito, how you know how everybody got wrapped up in that, but we'll figure that out at a later time.
It would have all been third season. You've done your homework, man. I like it. It's
And
refreshing.
we do what we can because again, I've watched we grew up watching Bob Costas, Brian Gumble, you know, to an extent Keith Jackson, who's arguably in my book the greatest football game commentator ever. So, you learn.
Very good.
And the thing that I learned about, especially because this was the interview that taught me don't ask questions to piss people off. It was the Bob Costas interview with Vince McMahon,
Mm.
and he was literally just asking simple questions that he knew Vince would have to answer, and Vince got pissed, and I was like, yeah, I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm gonna just try to figure out what's good, what's bad, and we'll
Mhm.
leave it at that.
Now, your
All
time
right.
on the show, Chris, when you were doing WMAC Masters, because this is something that a lot of the other cast members had told us too as well. Did you also partake in playing some of the ninjas that were on the show?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, and especially in the pilot episode, like the first three episodes, because it was. I mean,
Mm.
it started off as a fairly low budget show, at least, especially by today's standards. But we were multi-purpose, so we were stars and stunts all at the same time. And looking back on it, we were happy to do it. Like none of us really
Yeah.
complained. The biggest fights we had was who had the most dialogue in every episode. And it's like, wait, he's got 20 lines. How come I only have 17? Like those are our biggest fights. Like we want to have more screen time. So you get a bunch of talented martial artists together. There's a lot of ego that's going around in that room. So the table reads were the biggest fights were at the table reads, not on the screen.
I can imagine that. I could definitely see that.
But it makes sense though because you're martial artist number one. Number two, it's your. I'm not gonna say it's your first big break, but it's big enough to where because we're in Ohio. So in Ohio, especially in Cleveland, we had Fox. So Fox was back then correlating with TV 55, I believe, Ronnie.
Yep,
Okay.
that's right.
So on Saturday mornings, we got Fox Kids, which was their cartoon segment for us. So that's how we got to know you guys. So, you know, to us, it was like it's big enough to where everybody's seeing you because Fox is nationally syndicated.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you guys went on to be bigger than what we imagined, especially when Mortal Kombat came out, because we never thought we'd see Hakeem the Machine fighting Liu Kang, and then we see it. Even though Shang
Yeah.
Tsung had to steal his soul, it's like he was still there.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are learning, the ins and outs of the movie industry because of you guys. We're learning martial arts in a different light because of you guys. It was refreshing to see that, you know, Bruce Lee, your father, Chuck Norris, you guys started a wave that is continuing with
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
new generation of uh, talent, movie actors, and martial artists in general. Because Ronnie, you're gonna laugh at this. Don't laugh too hard. But I was talking to Herb Perez last week after the show, and I was like, can you help me with forms? Because I'm still, for the record, I was still on the traditional stuff, and he was like, "Oh man, that's a generation back." I was like, "Wait, there are new ones?" Uh, and he didn't even say that. He just laughed, and I was like, "That showed me how old I was." I hated it. That was a reality check I did not need. So fast forward from WMAC, you're in Mortal Kombat, you're Scorpion. Now you're like the stone statue for the greatest Mortal Kombat character ever, and you go into Batman and Robin. What was that like to play? Not only go from Scorpion, but now you're going to arguably the most iconic superhero in the world, if not the DC universe. What was that like emotionally for you?
Well, it was absolutely incredible. And to have that opportunity, like, I mean, I think about it even to this day. Like, I'm one of probably maybe 24 people on the planet that has ever actually worn the bat suit. Like, that's it.
Man.
You know, the stunt guys in the first movies, the stunt guys, you know, maybe 25, maybe 30 people in total have ever got to put that on. And it was an awesome opportunity. And that all came about because of the people that I met on Mortal Kombat, because some of them went over to the Batman thing, and I got the call, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing Batman. We think you'd be good for something. Come on over." And I go over thinking, well, I'm gonna just go, like, maybe it's a background thing, and they go, "No, the director wants to meet you." And I go, "Okay, what for?" And it was Pat, who was the fight coordinator on Mortal Kombat, brought me in for the thing, and he goes, "We think you're going to be perfect for George Clooney." And I go, "Okay." And so we went in there, and the director, Joel Schumacher, he walks up to me, he grabs my chin, and he goes, "Oh my God, your chin is perfect. You're in." And I went, "My chin? Like, do you not want to see me kick or punch or do anything?" Because, you know, in the mask, which is right behind me, in the mask, it's just the chin and the eyes, right? So we have the same eyes. And he goes, "Oh my God, you guys have the exact same chin. We're the exact same height." So it all worked out. And then Pat's all, "I already told Joel how great of a martial artist you are. Don't worry about it. We just wanted to make sure that when you're in the mask, you look like him." And so it all worked out.
That's cool because, like, me and my wife, man, we were joking about like just the different types of people that portrayed Batman in all the different movies. And the one thing that remained constant, which is funny you mentioned that, is the chin. Like, the chin just sets off the whole outfit. Like, you can't be out here Batman with like this roundabout, you know, chin and jawline thing happening. It just wouldn't look authentic.
Right.
And out of that, it was funny because I said, "Who do you think has like the best chin for Batman?" So then she tells me, she says she felt like it was Val Kilmer. Because I didn't like his character, like as far as like the acting part of it. Mm-hmm. But when you go back and look at the actual face, though, in the costume, like, okay, I can kind of see that, kind of. I had to argue a little bit with her too, because I, for one, liked more so, you know, the Batman and Robin version myself. But, you know, it's just different things that people pay attention to, I guess.
I mean, but it was kind of hard watching George Clooney be Batman. You know, nothing against George.
Nope.
But when you see George in like ER or whatever it was that he was in, I'm trying to remember correctly, and then you see him in From Dusk Till Dawn, and he's playing this criminal. It's kind of hard watching him be Bruce Wayne. So for me, I think, to me, you can argue with me all you want, but to me, best Batman is Michael Keaton. I'm sorry.
And he was the best because it was the original. They brought it to the screen with him. Listen, I'm kind of a big fan of our last guy that just played him, not Affleck, but Christian Bale. I thought he did a pretty spectacular job and really brought some depth to the Batman. Yeah. And I also think the vampire kid might be doing a pretty good job with Batman. I mean, we'll see when it comes out. I can't remember his name, so I'm sorry. I called him the vampire kid, but
oh, Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. There it is. There you go.
I was like, who's the vampire kid?
Yet today to remember his name, but I saw the preview for his version of it. I don't know if you guys seen it. It looks pretty dope. Pretty dope.
I'm sorry, I'm Marvel all the way. So.
Oh well, yeah. Listen, I'm not going to argue with that on there, but I'm just saying in the DC universe, Batman's in. And listen, arguably, and I'll be the first to say, arguably, I'm probably in the only Batman film that wasn't the most spectacular, but I don't care because I got to wear the Batsuit and I worked on a $100 million film, and that's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it was a great opportunity. I got to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. I got to meet Uma Thurman, Chris O'Donnell, Alicia Silverstone. I got to meet them all. I had lunch with George Clooney. Like, forget it. It was the experience of that film alone. like, and the other thing that a lot of people don't know, and I do tell the story a lot when I talk about Batman, they cut out probably some of the greatest fight scenes that have ever been done in the Batsuit out of that film. And it's because of what you said. George Clooney had just come off of ER. He did Dust to Dawn, maybe one or two other movies. The studios weren't sure he could carry the film. So if you do go back and watch the movie, and I don't recommend it, but if you do, you'll notice that that film is more about Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy than it is about Batman, because at that time, Uma Thurman and Arnold Schwarzenegger were huge stars, huge, and even Alicia Silverstone. So the movie is actually more about them than it really is about Batman, because they weren't sure that he could carry the film. So in order for them to get more screen time, they cut a lot of Batman fights out. And I'm talking stuff that we spent months on just ended up on the cutting room floor somewhere. So I know they're doing a director's cut of the Snyder cut of the other Batman film. They should release another cut of that, put all our fight scenes back in it.
I would watch that for sure.
That would be awesome, actually. Because,
release the Schumacher cut.
You know what? Because I'm pretty sure nobody in the Mortal Kombat movie that we've had on the show has actually divulged this information, but I'm pretty sure there were some fight scenes that were longer, but they got shortened or cut out because of time constraints or whatever. And
yeah, from that part, I tell you that the fight scene, the original fight scene between me and Johnny Cage, was scheduled to be happening in that forest. We were in Thailand. That's a rubber tree plantation. But movie productions tend to go behind schedule. They run over, things happen. It's normal. Like, I was in Thailand for almost a month. I worked for 1 day because rain delays, weather delays, things like that. And then they were filming the Kano scenes and the Sonya Blade scenes. They were doing a lot of the other scenes. And so what happened in the original cut, and again, Ronnie, I was telling you this before we went on the air about fan support and how important a role it plays in movies.
Right.
In the original cut of Mortal Kombat, because we ran out of time, they actually cut our fight scene. That fight scene in the forest, when he runs at me, he did a jump kick, hits me in the chest, I fall over and supposedly am dead. That was it. They cut the entire fight scene. So they did a screening. They did, they finished all the thing. They did a screening for a fan test audience. And this is what they told me. When that scene came up, everyone in the audience, almost at the same time, stood up, started booing, threw their popcorn at the screen, and said, "There's no way we'll ever see this film. There's no way Johnny Cage could beat Scorpion like that. This is bullshit." This literal quote, "This is bullshit," and they walked out. People at the test screening walked out.
I believe that. I believe that.
I get a phone call from Larry, the producer. He's like, "You're not going to believe it." He told me that story. He goes, "They in mass, they walked out." I go, "They walked out of a test screen?" He goes, "Yeah," and they threw their popcorn down. They were pissed. I go, "So what are we going to do?" He goes, "We're going to shoot a fight scene." So we went back to LA, and in an airport hangar in Santa Monica, that's a real set. Like, that's not computer generated. That entire set was built in an airport hangar. They spent a couple $1 million doing that. We spent a month in that airport hangar, and we are really 25 feet up in the air. Again, that's not special effects. Me and Lyndon are up on that platform, which is no wider than a picnic table, doing that entire fight scene. And the only reason that happened, was because of the fans. If it wasn't for them, fight scene, that would have never happened.
Oh my goodness! Thank you, fans.
I would have walked out too. How do you just take a kick to the chest and that's it? Like,
yeah, that's like so much disrespect to Scorpion and his character in general.
Underestimated the
no way
of the fan base.
At least pretend to be dead, then get up and kick him back. Like, what kind of man? You know what? I'm gonna be honest. If I was you in that situation, I'd have a lot of questions in that.
I did, but listen, it was really my first big Hollywood production. Right, I'd done smaller like B movie stuff, but I'd never done anything on that level before. So I tried to say, hey, listen, this fight can't end like that. Because Lyndon and I we were in Thailand. We spent 3 weeks rehearsing our fight. The fight we did on the platform was the fight that we had planned to do in the rubber tree plantation. So we had it dialed in, and we wanted to go, fisticuffs, get some little Old West fight scene in there. We wanted to really do it some good justice. But they're like, we're out of time. We got to go. Everybody's got to go back to LA. It is what it is. And I'm nobody. So I'm just like, yes, sir. I don't think it's going to play, but okay. I'll take the hit and fall.
Yeah, we're glad you didn't take the hit and just fall because,
Right.
like I said, to me that was arguably best fight scene in any movie that was martial arts related because and for the record, I'm just speaking one on one. If you stomp me like that, the movie's over. Getting up, walking out. Ain't no cut. I'm just getting up. Y'all enjoy the rest of the film. Mm-mm.
Like I'm not retaping this.
Bro, did you see how he stomped Johnny? Like when he got Johnny on the ground, that your head ain't supposed to bounce off the floor like that.
It's not. It's not, and especially like just seeing the effects of it, and then when you listen
And the
in,
pile.
yeah, the dust coming off of you, and then like hearing it done, and then just imagine getting hit by somebody, and then when they hit you, it's like two or three voices at one time. You know what I
Telling
mean?
you,
It's like, you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I should walk away now because
yeah,
if you got that many voices coming out of you at one time when you hit me, I don't know if I should keep
yeah.
fighting anyway.
The
So,
fight's over. No, for me,
right,
the
that's
fight.
it.
The, to be honest, the fight would have been over when you sucker punched me when you said welcome. Because I, like, how you just watch a movie and you play out the scene in your head, how the scene would go if you were in it as a kid. I was sitting there watching it recently because they put it up on Netflix. And when this was around the time you originally agreed to say, you'd be on the show. So
Mhm.
I went back, watched the movie, watched the fight scenes, and I remember the Scorpion Johnny Cage fight. Welcome. He turns around. What? Ah, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, fight's over right there.
Yep,
As
that's it.
soon as you hit me, hold up, time out. This thing, oh, wait,
I
you
didn't
didn't
know you were punching in the face.
punch him hard too. He spent.
Right.
You know how hard somebody has to hit you for you to spin?
Well, listen, Johnny Cage is still a very powerful character in the game.
Of
So
course.
you can take some of those hits. Me and
And
you
that,
couldn't take them.
No.
and you know
Mm.
what? That's a testament. That's a testament to the creators of the game, which is something I applaud them for because yes, Scorpion favorite character out of 95% of the fan base of the game. But if you really go back and look at some of these earlier Mortal Kombat tournaments that they used to have, Johnny was that guy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Johnny was the guy. Like you had anybody pick Johnny Cage, you had problems. Scorpion, you might have a shot depending on how the player was, but if you pick Johnny, people generally didn't lose those fights, and that was what made me hate Johnny. And I told Daniel Pacina this. I had to apologize. And I'm like, you made me hate Johnny Cage because, like, in Mortal Kombat 1, he was a cupcake almost, with the exception of the fatality where he knocks your head off 3 times. And then in Mortal Kombat 2, he turns into a superhero. He got a shadow uppercut. He's got a shadow kick.
Hmm.
His fireball is a far and short one. Like, come on, man, you guys are killing us,
And anytime that nut punch right,
man.
it was annoying. My sister used to do that to me all the time. I'm like, okay, well,
Well, if she couldn't do it in real life, she got to do it some other way.
right, exactly.
Now, you got the school, and if I read the bio correctly, I think it's about 5 or 6 schools up and down California.
We have 12 locations in Southern California.
Okay, so I what is handling the school like for day to day?
Well, the life of an entrepreneur is never dull. That much I can tell you. But our company's been around for 55 years. So we have
Nice.
systems in place that allow us to produce reliable, predictable, consistent results. And they can be done by just about any of our team members. So as long as the people that we have in place follow the systems that we've outlined for them, things go smoothly. Now, humans make mistakes, and myself included. I'm never perfect. So sometimes it goes a little sideways. And then there's all of a sudden, let's say, a pandemic that happens that prevents you from teaching in person. So there's always some curveballs there, which the great thing about our style and especially about our system is we translate onto Zoom very well. Like we pivoted fast in March,
Mhm.
moved our entire company into a virtual platform. It worked. We were able to keep about 90% of our customers, which was awesome. It wasn't ideal, and I necessarily wouldn't want to do it again. but it worked. And again, moving fast, taking decisive action early probably saved us. And you know, I'm looking for us to be around another 55 years.
That's awesome, especially during a pandemic.
Right.
It
Not
makes
easy
you
to
wonder,
do it all.
right? But it makes you wonder why the NFL can't get it right.
Yeah, they're doing all right. I mean, the NBA crushed it. They're doing amazing with their bubble and the things like that. Baseball, that's for damn sure. Football's doing okay, but the NBA should be the role model for like every sports league. They should just do that.
And speaking of your,
go ahead, Ronnie.
speaking of your school, Chris, like I have to ask you too with this because it's awesome to hear. First of all, congratulations for being around for 55 plus years, man. That's an amazing feat. And we really hope that Red Dragon is around longer than that for sure, even beyond where we're living. So it's good to hear that. Secondly, with this, are you still involved with the competition circuit? Like, is anybody you're training right now that actually is competing and things like that regularly, or how's that working with COVID?
I'll tell you a cool, fun. The answer is yes. I don't compete anymore. Last time actually people call me like a what is it, a locust? Every 7 years, I dust off my gi and go out and compete just to see if I still have it. So I competed about 3 years ago in LA at a major championship that I won, the Compete Nationals. But not really, I don't compete anymore. But I'll tell you a fun fact about Red Dragon. Since first year I was number one, 1989. Since 1989, there have been at least one and up to 5 Red Dragon students that have been ranked number 1 in the world on the tour. So for our style and our current guy, Shaheen Jahanbash, he's out of our Diamond Bar location, is phenomenal. And he's like the number 1 competitor for weapons forms in the world right now.
Nice.
So since the like 1990s, so what's that, 20, 30 years, there's been a Red Dragon person ranked at least number 1, and sometimes multiple people ranked number 1 in the world for the last 30 years.
Man.
To say you got a dynasty is an understatement. That's a little creepy. I think you got like a legion going on there.
I don't know about that, but and actually, you know what? I didn't until about 5 years ago. I didn't realize that, but we had gone back through our history and we're like, all right, so that guy was number 1, that girl was number 1. Like we've had female competitors number 1. My mom actually was the number 1 female fighter over 40 back in the early 1990s. She was the number 1 fighter in the country. So yeah, so we went back and we just tracked and we looked and we like, hey, we've had a number 1 person on the NASCA tour for over a quarter of a century.
Wait, I'm still tripping off the fact you said your mom was the number 1 fighter.
Dude, my dad was a badass, but my mom was even more of a badass.
I can believe it. I can only imagine what they were
like. My dad disciplined with his voice. My mom, she got the dish ruler. She got everything. She didn't mess around. It was three boys, and we're all like a year apart. We were on her. We were terror.
Oh yeah, she was getting y'all.
She whooped our ass really good. And looking back, I'm glad she did.
Yeah, I could imagine that you getting in trouble at school. Put your sparring gear on and meet me outside. Come on, Mom.
That's what it was. Or she'd call my dad when I was going to the studio and be like, he was an ass today. You need to. And my dad was like, hey, we're going to spar today. Like, damn it.
You already knew it was coming.
Damn it, Mom. Why you say something?
Yeah.
Okay, you've got 12 schools. You've been in the movies. What's home life like? We know you're in philanthropy. But when you are at home, what is home life like?
Home life's awesome. I got 2 beautiful kids, my daughter and my son. My daughter's in college now, and my son is a junior in high school. They're both black belts. My daughter trains and my son trains in martial arts. My daughter's actually getting ready to test for her 3rd degree black belt. My son's getting ready to test for his 2nd. So that's awesome. So the family stuff continues. Unfortunately, they're not really into the teaching side of it or running the business, which is fine. Like I got into this business because I wanted to. My dad never forced me to do it. He said, look, if you want to run the business and learn how to do it, I'll teach you, but you've got to have a true passion for it. So I really said the same thing to my kids, like especially my daughter who's older. I was like, listen, you don't have a choice, right? So I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second. There's so many bad. Can we curse on this show?
Yeah, this is fine.
There's so many fucking bad dudes in the world. I can't always be there for my daughter. So when she was 4, she started training in the martial arts because I can't always be there for her. And I know at some point in her life, there's going to be some scumbag guy that's going to try something that maybe she doesn't want to have happen. And I hope that never happens to her. But here's the statistics on it. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted or attacked in their lives. 1 in 3. So to put my head in the sand and go, it'll never happen to my daughter is just ignorant at best. I want to be prepared. So if, not really if, but when it ever happens, she's prepared to handle both the shock value of it and to know what to do. And I hope it never happens to her. But if it does, I'd like to be a fly on a wall just so I could watch her whip his ass. Now, that soapbox continues because if you're hearing my voice right now and you have a daughter, sign her up for martial arts. It is probably the single greatest thing that you can do because guys pick on girls that have low self-esteem, that lack confidence, that aren't sure of themselves, all skills that are developed in the martial arts. I am who I am because of the martial arts, but I'm a guy, so naturally we carry ourselves a different way. Girls sometimes don't do that. So it's important. And if you don't do martial arts, even ballet or drama where they can act the part, that confidence, that self-awareness in their body, that little thing could prevent them from being attacked or being raped or being assaulted. And that's so powerful and impactful. If you have a daughter, sign her up for martial arts. Now, of course, I'd like to be at Red Dragon, but we're not worldwide. We're not nationwide. But so it doesn't matter to me where. What matters is that you do it. And it's something that I do in the philanthropy part where I travel all over the United States. Before the pandemic, I was going all 50 states. I'm getting ready to go to Australia. I teach a special clinic called Bully Proof where I help kids that are being bullied overcome that situation, how to deal with it, what to say, what to do, what not to do. I also, when I do my presentation, there's kids in the audience who are the bullies. So I teach them how to course correct, how to fix themselves at an early age so they don't go down the wrong path. And really right now, part of my mission and passion and purpose is by the year 2025, I want to have helped 1 million kids live a bully-proof life. Right now, I've just passed the 60,000 kid mark. So I was on track to keep going, but the last 8 months, I really haven't been able to travel. And finally, next couple of weeks, I'm going to start traveling again and doing those clinics. But that's why being on a show like this and helping get the word out is really important and impactful for me. It's really part of who I am and what I'm doing right now. So sorry, I turned left there. I know we were talking about movies and TVs, but you just kind of brought it up asking about the family and what I'm doing.
Oh no,
Oh, that's cool.
We don't
We
mind
good with
free
that.
advertising at all.
Yeah,
We're nice.
man. And on top,
It's fine. It's fine.
and that's something else that, Hakeem talked to us about when we had him on the show. It was like, you know, the questions and different things that we'll prep to have these conversations are there. But he's like, you really have to go for the human aspect,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like help fans to connect with that human side of individuals, not what they see on screen or what they've heard about or read about, but to truly connect with the individual. So
Yeah.
something like that is really huge. And I want to say something about it too, because bullying for me, hearing about it was just crazy. And like I always felt like I had friends of mine growing up that I had to kind of step in and be that guy to warn those people off growing up. And at the same time, I I guess in my mind, because the way I grew up and how I look and stuff like that and my stature, I didn't have to really worry about that too much. So I guess I have a false sense of what it's really like. At the same time, when it comes to bullying, and I hear about these kids now, and some of them who are like, to the point where they're taking themselves out and stuff like that. In my mind, it was like, where does that come from? Why is that happening? And for us, for those of you who are a little bit younger, we used to get a gang like a posse or something. So like whenever we knew about that happening, you had to answer to 4 different brothers or uncle or somebody. And at the end of the day, you was getting whooped upon. You was getting jumped. So it
Yeah.
wasn't even a question of like, okay, so and so about to get bullied over here, and now they're gonna run and be in a corner somewhere and be all like extra emotional, something like that. It was like, nah, I'm gonna go tell who I gotta tell, and you got to deal with the 4 of them.
Yeah.
And if you come, maybe you come out of that, maybe you don't. I don't know, but somebody getting hurt. So I don't
Yeah.
understand where this culture is like shifting and all this stuff is happening. Like I had to say that. I don't know if I'm politically incorrect about that. Whatever. I
Yeah.
personally don't care,
You don't have to worry about
but
be correct with me.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, you
No, you're right. You're right because, like you said, when we was growing up, he actually Ronnie bailed me out when I had stood up to the varsity when I was a freshman. We both went to the same high school, and I guess we was getting ready for practice, I believe,
Hmm.
And the varsity hazings back then. And for you kids at home, you have no idea what hazing is until you grow up in the 90s and early 2000s. I don't care. And I had stood up to like 5 members of the varsity, and they were like the biggest, muscular, no neck dudes. And they hit me up against the locker, and all you hear is Ronnie, "Come on, guys, leave him alone. Just max out." I was like, because I felt if I could take one, I was okay. Before I had my work cut out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
like
that's the thing, man. When you see stuff like that happening, what I'm saying? Like, it's people like us that need to step in. What
Yep.
I'm saying? Be that voice and do something about it for sure. Because at the end of the day, you never know what someone's gonna be able to do or accomplish or amount to had they not have someone like that in their corner to be able to back them up. And I would do that again. You know what I'm saying? I would do that now. And Chris, something that you had mentioned too that struck me was like talking about, 1 in 3 women. Like, I have 3 females in my house now. I got my wife and I got my 2 daughters. So, hearing that was like, okay, let me think about a few things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, my daughter is only 3, and I have one that's, 2 weeks shy of being 10 months. So just hearing that was like, okay, definitely want to get them involved. My son, he's 6 years old, knucklehead type, you know what I mean? So we want to definitely get him something that's going to be
Well,
more
listen.
grounding and get more
Yeah.
discipline. So,
Yeah. To that point too, like when your daughter's old enough, start her in martial arts. Like, and just hit me up because I can tell you the good schools from the bad schools. That's the other cool thing. There's like, it's just like any business. There's some good taco shops and there's some not so good. Same thing with martial schools, right? There's some that are great that do the right things, and then there's some that not so much. Being in this industry for a very long time, like, I'm happy to help you. I don't know what Ohio you're in, but I know some good guys and girls that have schools in Ohio that I could definitely direct you to. So when she's old enough, I'm telling you, it's the number one thing you can do. It's 1 in 3 for girls. It's, you know what it is for guys? 1 in 100.
wow, that's
One in
wow.
100. And those are FBI numbers. Like, I'm not just making those up. They're in the book I wrote, and it's crazy stuff. So yeah, and for me, when I was in high school, I was a little dude. Like, I was a very late bloomer. I was 5'3" when I was a junior. So I was like the littlest guy in school. I was like a jockey. You know what I mean? I was short. So, and I was like, I always told my dad, like, Dad, because my dad's 6'2". Like, he's big. I'm like, Dad, when am I going to grow? He goes, listen, I didn't grow till I was like 18, 19. You're going to be a late bloomer. Don't worry. Everybody you went to high school with is going to look old when they're 30. You're still going to look 20. Don't worry about it. And he was right. He was right. But, care about that. When you're in high school, like, you want to be grown up. I want to have a beard. Like, in high school, I want to be hanging out. But no, man, when I was 16, I looked 9. The reverse Benjamin Buttons is what I was. But
opposed to Ronnie being 9 feet tall in the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Hey, I did not, Chris, I will tell you from experience, man, having to worry about learning to shave in 7th grade was just awkward. Okay.
Yeah,
and
I believe it.
I just, the razor bumps and all of that to worry about, and being the one guy that actually could like connect everywhere and not have those, patches or whatever and all that. And this is at 12. So back then that was unheard of. And girls like, oh, we connect this beard and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, it's overrated, man. It's overrated. Trust me, it's overrated.
The grass is always greener thing, right? If you don't have it, you're like, I want it. And if you have it, you're like, I want it with that. How come I can't look young? Why I got all this hair on my face? So, message to everyone: appreciate what you have, own it, love it, and live your life.
Quick update. Not to cut you guys off. Quick update. The Chiefs have just scored a touchdown and kicked the ball off back to the Patriots. The Chiefs are up 13-3 now. Bill Belichick's going to be pissed on the flight home, I'm sure. The Patriots had a chance to score, and they fumbled. And the Chiefs got it back, drove down the field. So it's 42 seconds left in the 3rd quarter.
All right.
If they don't win this game, Bill Belichick will be pissed. And Cam is not in the game. Stidham is quarterback now. I don't know who that is, so don't ask me.
You don't have Cam.
Yeah, right. The loss of Cam is hurting. They're running the ball and moving the ball well, but
only the Patriots had Brady.
And you know what? Because
True.
Ronnie, you called this. He's actually showing out in Tampa. Like he's really, because I was skeptical. I mean, not to get off topic about it, but I was skeptical of Brady going to Tampa because the O line is subpar.
Hmm.
No, yes, Bruce Arians is there, but what do you have around Brady? Because you know Brady likes to throw the ball, and it's not a lot to work with. It's a quiet receiving core,
Right.
but it's not the receiving core he had while he was in New England. So Brady making it look good, man.
Mhm.
And I'm interested to see what's about to happen.
Yeah,
Okay,
the game yesterday was a really good test because he had to make a comeback. He had to come back. Normally, they've got a lead that they're sitting on. It's with the Patriots. They go up 24-3, then they're just cruising. But now, yesterday was a good test for him, and then I think he rose to the challenge. I was not a Brady fan while he was in New England, only because I was a lowly Dolphins fan.
ooh,
So like
Oh.
now he's in Tampa Bay. I'm like, go Brady, go Gronk, I love you guys. You're awesome. Listen, you don't win 6 Super Bowls by accident, man. That's
you don't, you
that's
don't.
No, you don't. You don't.
go.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. You do not, and I keep trying to tell people, hate him all you want. Okay, we hate the Patriots. I'll even be the first to say I can't stand New England. But you don't win 6 championships as a team, as a person. You don't win that by accident.
Nope.
And Brady was blessed enough to be around the perfect system, the perfect coach, and it all worked.
Yeah,
I can't sit here and say I'm mad at that. What I'm mad about is the fact that it was so successful and nobody paid attention to the fact that it could have been other teams. And what I mean by that is, Chris, you, your father, the most successful karate franchise in North America, arguably, some will say, and you have a long-standing tradition of having very good schools, very good students. Hell, you taught the green/white ranger, so there's no reason you can't say, you know, the tradition, the stigma isn't there, and nobody has picked up on the formula that's sitting right in front of their face, especially in the NFL. All you
Hmm.
need is players that fit your system. If they don't fit your system, get them out of there. Replace them with somebody who wants to be there. Nobody else has done that. And New England has worked it to a T. Brady took pay cuts. He took, and by no means am I ever a fan of any player. Speaking as a former football player, no way am I telling a player to take a pay cut. This man willingly took pay cuts so he could get other people to join him. How many other
Yep.
quarterbacks you know are going to do that?
None.
Exactly. And the fact that he did that and nobody else picks up on it, it's like y'all are killing me. Like you can't be mad at the Patriots. If they cheated and they got caught, it's because y'all wasn't paying attention long enough to see that they was cheating. Y'all catching them years later.
Yes, true.
Years later.
Yep.
Like that's like catching Chiquito after they done stole the Dragon Star.
that's it.
Man. Speaking of dragons, Chris, I gotta ask you this, man, because with you having taught, trained with Jason David Frank, and with all these projects happening, man, do you have anything that you can say in regards to Legend of the White Dragon?
I do. I'm going to be in it.
That you, oh, cool. Okay, because I've been following this and I saw like the fundraising and all that. So
I are going to be on screen together. First time that we're going to fight together in a film, and I'm excited about the project. It's going to be really, really cool. We're just waiting for some clearance on the COVID thing. We'll be doing that, and then I've got another cool film that I'll be doing probably right after that called Raptor, which is, I would say, Mortal Kombat meets Lord of the Rings meets The Matrix.
man,
Wow.
what?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's really cool. And it's going to be, I think that's going to be really big because it's the original production team that put together the first Mortal Kombat film has come back together to do this project and
Oh,
it to be that
definitely
one as
watching that. You got to keep
Yeah,
us
you got
informed.
me like, Yeah, we all over that.
Hey, listen, that's why I need everybody to wear a fucking mask so we can get out of this and we can get back to work. Put your mask on.
Exactly.
You heard it from the Red Dragon himself. I'm not saying nothing. I'm stepping out of that one. He ain't kicking my ass.
Man.
Okay, you know what?
Martial arts, wear a mask.
Yeah. Not a martial arts.
Scorpion 95. We made masks cool. Put a fucking scorpion mask on. I don't care. But get us out of there.
Scorpion said wear a mask. I'm wearing a mask. Okay, you know what? I only had one because, you know, Ronnie, we saw this weekend in football. It wasn't much to talk about. Everybody who we thought won was going to win. But I wanted to.
Cleveland Browns versus Dallas Cowboys, that was a game.
It was.
Come on.
Again, you know what? Since you brought it up.
In Dallas.
Since you brought it up, you're going to be part of this.
Oh, yeah, you got to be part of it now, Chris, man.
But I'll be part of it. But seriously, I got like 5 minutes and I got to bounce.
Okay, that's all we need.
I was not shocked. Because I also write for Cleveland Sports Talk on the internet, and I called the Browns win. Did I think it was going to be that dominant? No, I didn't. Because one is Dak Prescott. He's not a bad quarterback. Two, you got Ezekiel Elliott. He's stronger than damn near bamboo. And, you know, to me, it was more of a, can the Browns keep up? And what I meant by that is you've seen how explosive Dallas's offense can be. Came back against the Falcons. I was nervous. I wanted the Browns to win. They did win. I wrote about it. I called it. But to see them dominate, they scored 24 unanswered in the second quarter. It was 31-14 going into that. And I'm like, yo, this is real. But at the same time, my worry is still the defense.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get off the field on third down. I get it.
Yeah.
They're winning the turnover margin, but getting off the field on third down is more important to me because you need the rest. You see what happens when they're on the field too long.
Mm-hmm.
They start rallying, they come back, they're within 3, they're within 1. It's at some point, and you got Indianapolis coming in this week. At some point, you have to get off the field on third down. If you don't get off the field on third down, later on in the season, it's going to cost you.
And on top of that, man, you know, when it comes to the energy you expound, so something that one of the commentators said, and this is a good point too, it takes a lot more energy to rush a quarterback than it does to block for one. And me having experience on the line on both sides, I can attest to that. Because if I'm a DN and I'm trying to rush that outside, man, I'm giving all I can, sprinting off the line every play, way much more energy than sitting there trying to brace yourself for impact and taking a few steps back and absorbing that energy. Way less energy expounded. On top of that, when they were going down the field on them, you could see that. It was getting tired, back and forth, over and over again, pounding the rock, and you could see Dak speeding them up because they had a field that was like a no-huddle offense throughout the whole game. They kept trying to keep that pace up. They're like, we're going to tire them out so we can make this comeback happen. People can't get set. It's just good football. So that made perfect sense to me too. But that was something I heard them say. And I'm like, okay, this is where it's dead on right here. Just hearing that commentary and them giving props to both lines. So, but Chris, like, did you get a chance to catch a bunch of that yesterday when you did see some of those games, or did you have a chance to do it all?
I watched that game. I wasn't going to watch it because I was watching the Tampa Bay game because now I'm a Brady fan, of course. But I started flicking back and forth to the Cleveland game, and I just stayed on the Cleveland game because it was a really good game. And it would have been cool if they'd have closed out and like not let them score any more points. They held them at 14. Yeah. That'd have been a statement game. But you're right about Dax and Dallas are stacked and loaded, and I don't know why they wait till the fourth quarter to start playing football, but hopefully they figure that out.
Me too, yeah.
But ever since Baker got drafted and he came in that very first game when Tyrod got hurt and started playing, you know, I've been a Baker Mayfield fan. I like the energy he brings. I like his attitude, and you know, I think the Browns could go far this year.
Yeah, and I called it, even though I'm personally a Steelers fan. I just felt Hugh Jackson was not the right coach for the team at all.
Oh my goodness, no.
2, you had to get Baker to focus because if you paid attention to him in college, if you get him to focus, bad things happen for other teams. The Kansas game was it was a prime example of what happens when you get him focused.
My goodness.
Now, does it stay consistent? I believe so. Even with Chubb going down, I still believe they have enough to, especially at running back. You still got Kareem Hunt,
Yeah, you get Kareem.
and they followed up with two other running backs that were just as strong as him, if not faster.
Hmm.
And that's scary because now you literally have running back by committee. And for you to have running back by committee and a great passing game, that spells trouble. I'm it's not even the defense entirely. It's the secondary that bugs me
Yeah.
because they're hurt. Sendejo's trash. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
goodness, get him out.
Um, you got Denzel. Denzel's your only star power on that side, but he can only cover one person at a time.
Hmm.
So I'm feeling like if they can get the secondary straightened out, this defense is going to be scary because Miles Davis has had at least 2 sacks all season in every game he's played in, and he's now, according to my stat line, he's now fifth in the league in sacks.
Miles Garrett, right?
Yeah, Miles Garrett. Hmm.
You said Miles.
Okay.
I thought, well, I love his music.
Okay, Chris, I'm gonna be honest with you right now. Um, I'm kind of stalling for time because there was a person that knows you and knows of
Hmm.
you and your work,
Yep.
and they they caught wind of you being on the show. I know you're pressed for time, but I'm still stalling for time, hopefully, because they caught it in time. So whenever they decide to pop up, they want to say hi to you personally. I hope that's okay. But again, it is a surprise. So, please don't beat us up later on. Because I tell your wife or whoever's waiting, I apologize, but these people really wanted to say hi to you personally, and it's probably going to mean a lot to them because they
Okay.
know you, they know
Well, let's
of you.
because I do have dinner waiting. My wife and kids are waiting on me.
Oh,
Oh man.
tell them we apologize, but we're waiting on them to pop up. But Ronnie, you can be a part of this part as well because I did have this only other topic I really wanted to talk about. Who is the most unstoppable video game athlete of all time? Here's the list: Reggie
Ooh.
Bush from NCAA '06, Ken Griffey Jr. from Ken Griffey Jr.'s Major League Baseball, Bo Jackson from Tecmo Bowl,
Mm.
LeBron from 2K14, Ronaldinho from FIFA '06, Michael Vick from Madden '04, and Mike Tyson from his very own game.
I gotta go with Bo Jackson, man. I'll be honest, like with Bo Jackson, whenever I was using him in Tecmo Bowl, I couldn't lose. It was just like that dude was not touchable. When it's stride for stride, he was faster than anybody else in the game. And he was, I mean, nothing you could do once he got out in the open, it was it. And him breaking through, unstoppable. Can't do anything about it. It was like, oh, Bo got the ball. Well, I guess you're getting a touchdown right now. And it was crazy because I had no idea that I could play with anybody else at the time when I was trying to learn how to do the game. But Bo, hands down, was the one. That's at least for me.
Chris, what about you?
I don't know. I don't. I never really played any of those games. I got to be honest.
Okay, well,
Since it's fighting, I'll take Tyson.
that was who I was going with. I'm gonna be honest, that's who I was going with as well. Because
I
when you
modeled, I modeled my first punch in Mortal Kombat after Mike Tyson.
I can believe that. But you had to actually. I'm not even gonna say it was just Tyson because when you see the lineup that you got to go through after you win that first circuit, you gotta think somebody really hated whoever or hated people in general to come up with a lineup like that. Like King Hippo, Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man. It's like, dude, come on. And then you have to fight Tyson and realize you can't. beat Tyson, like because I didn't find this out till later on YouTube that they made a video about it that they you have to pay attention to uh the signs and there were legit signs in the Tyson fight. Like one of the signs was you literally had to wait seconds. Like, it would hit 21 seconds and that first uppercut would come and if you didn't dodge it, it was an instant knockdown. And then the second one, it was a camera flash at another 21 seconds. And I was like, dude, who's gonna pay attention to that? And then Tyson's power on the game, it was like that's unfair. Like, why would you do that to people? Like I couldn't understand why you would do that to people. My second one would be King Griffey Jr. because like, every time Griffey was up to bat, it was an instant home run. It was an instant home run or a triple. And with his speed and stuff, it was like, come on, man. Like that's why I hate you. I love playing with the Mariners, but I hated playing against them going through a season.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, whatever. I can't with this. So, but Bo, I mean, it was Bo. You know, Bo knows everything apparently,
Oh no.
and it was so funny because um there was a Tecmo Bowl tournament here, and one of the rules is uh one of the house rules rather is that you can't put Bo Jackson at kick return because he's too fast. So it was like, well, what else are you supposed to do with it? He's gonna outrun everybody anyway. So I guess it is what it is. Okay, they're still not responding, so we're just gonna be honest. If she doesn't catch it in time, Christine Rodriguez wanted to say hi because we know you guys don't get to talk very often because of your schedule is not lining up. So
All right. Well, listen, tell her I said hello.
we will.
That's why I'm looking down. My wife texts me. She's like, you better get your ass home. So you played star long enough. Now these dishes aren't going to wash themselves. So
Trust me, we know. We both married. We get it.
all right. So you know the drill.
Oh yeah.
Life, happy life. Let's
Happy spouse, happy house, man.
go.
You ever notice nobody has a word that rhymes with husband?
Nope.
Yeah, they don't care about us, man. It's about what we can do. We can provide.
That's unfair.
Anyway, guys, seriously, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blast.
Appreciate you being here.
Keep doing what you're doing. Get to 100 million views. Get rocking.
Oh, she just responded. She just caught it. She said, "Hang on a second." She just perfect timing.
She's got my number. Tell her text me.
I'm trying. It was actually to be honest, it was supposed to be Eric and Christine that wanted to say hi.
Oh, nice.
But because we know you guys, I know you, Herb, and Eric are in California.
Yep.
But if I'm not mistaken, you're in Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's where he's at. They're dealing with the wildfires and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So she just said, "Hang on a minute." I'm like, she's gonna get us killed.
No, seriously, guys, I gotta bounce. I love her, but I can't wait.
That's fine.
I gotta eat.
We're not stopping you. We're not. I don't look, man. I can't win that fight. I personally can't win that fight.
I appreciate it. It was fun. I had a blast.
We are glad you're here. You're welcome back anytime.
All right, man.
Absolutely. All right, take care of yourself.
I'll see you.
All right, that was the legendary Red Dragon himself, Chris Casamassa, aka Scorpion, and awesome guy. Like awesome guy. The guests we've had, super awesome.
It's just cool to see how humble they are, man, and just like to realize. Because when I was talking off camera with Chris a little bit, he was just saying like he's definitely happy to be here, happy to be a part of the show. He doesn't care how big or how small. It's a matter of remembering that the fans are what got him to where he is. So that's the main reason why he does this. And I was like, okay, I appreciate you saying that, and the well wishes you're giving us, man. So it's just pretty cool to talk to someone like that and the different martial artists that we've had, and to see how humble they are in general.
Oh, speaking of which, and speaking of the lady herself, she just struck. Lady Lightning, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We are fine. Unfortunately, you just missed him. He got a
Oh,
text
okay.
saying he had to go eat dinner, and I'm not winning that fight against him. So he says hi. He loves you. He said text him when you get a chance. But as always, you're always welcome. So
Oh,
uh,
sorry I missed it. I wasn't thinking being a Monday night. This is the time I'm finishing
no,
class and
no.
driving home.
Well, we it was the only time we could get him. So it happens. We don't do weekday shows very often, but it's always nice to have you on. Hope all is well.
Yes. Well, you guys have a good night. Sorry I missed it.
Okay,
No, that's cool. We
it's
appreciate you,
all
Christine.
I'll text them.
all right. And you guys,
All
you
right.
have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for the
You too.
invite.
All right, that was also Lady Lightning Christine Rodriguez of WMAC Master Lore, and also Batman movie, Batman Forever, I believe.
Hmm.
But it's just nice to have people like that because now you get to learn that not every star is about themselves, and they're self-centered like most people would believe them to be. Quick update again. Monday Night Football. The Chiefs are now winning 19-10. This is an
Uh-oh.
ugly game, bro. This game is ugly. Truthfully, this
It
game is
sounds
really
like
ugly.
all around it's just not that great. It's funny because
It's
when
not.
and then hearing a score like 19-10, it seems like the Patriots defense is doing enough to still try to keep them in
They
it.
are.
It's just
They
the
are.
offense just isn't producing much, man.
Okay, I take that back. This game is getting out of hand really quickly. Whoever this quarterback is, I think it's still Stidmal or Stidwell or whatever his name is. He just threw a pick six, so now the score is 25-10, pending the PAT. Chiefs are,
Mm-mm.
yeah. I just happened to
Oh,
be talking to you and looked up and just seen him run, seen the
well,
DB running back the other way.
I mean, you figure that alone is a momentum shift, man. Them
Yeah,
pick sixes just take the life out of
Julian
you.
Edelman dropped the pass.
Oh, dang. Well,
Actually, no. Looking at the replay, the pass goes through his hands,
mm,
and Tyron Matthew catches the ball on an opportunity, takes it back for a pick six. So, a pending PAT, which they're about to convert now, it is now 26-10. They are sorely missing Cam. It's
so and with this game, did Brian Hoyer get an injury or something?
I have no idea. Maybe he was stinking up the joint. We might have to look that up. Actually, I can pull that up on my computer now.
Because I was sitting here, I'm like, I for sure thought he was the one getting the start, and that just didn't make any sense to me.
Well, here's the thing though. Like this is the second quarterback that they've had. So I'm trying to figure out if that is the case because Hoyer ain't a bad quarterback.
Right.
Hoyer's not a bad quarterback. Hoyer is uh Jared Stidham. I don't know who the hell that is. I don't.
Oh, here's what happened, man. I just looked it up. So Hoyer was definitely starting the game. It says basically what happened is Hoyer made a really bad decision before halftime, where they could have actually been tied going into the third quarter. It looks like what happened here is that the Patriots were out of timeouts. They decided to run one more play on a 3rd and 9 at the Kansas City 13
Oh wow,
with eight
that was the
seconds
play.
left. Yep. So Hoyer took a sack with Frank Clark tackling him, and it was a 13-yard loss.
Wow.
And then the
Okay.
half was over with. So you're on the 13. I mean, you could have kicked the field goal. And you're like, let's run one
Right.
more play.
Right. It'd have been nine. It'd have been what 9-6 going into or 13-9, 13-6 going into halftime. So you still wouldn't have had to come from behind so much.
Yeah.
And um, looking at the other Monday night game, Falcons are behind against the Packers 7-0. They just stuffed the Packers on a goal line stand. So um, and the Chiefs are leading the turnovers. They have three. They made the Patriots turn it over 3 times. So and they
Mm.
got 14 points off turnovers. So uh, it's not it's not looking good for the New England Patriots. It's probably more than likely going to end like this. It's 8 minutes left in the game, but still, even with that, the Patriots being 2-2, assuming they don't come back, Kansas City would remain undefeated, one of the few unbeaten's in the league at this point.
Hmm.
But do you? Because we talked about this before, so I'm going to ask again. Do you think COVID is the cause of star players being out and missing big games?
Absolutely. I feel like it's the cause of it. And then even looking at what we had talked about a month ago, New England's depth chart, because New England actually had the most players opt out this season too. Guys like
Yeah,
Hightower. So there's some impact players that they have on their team, especially on defense, who chose to opt out this season, and a couple of wide receivers too as well. So going into this, I was like, okay, even though they have Cam coming in, there's still some key players that they weren't even going to see all year because
hmm
of that. And then you look at the way that some teams are dealing with the actual virus, whatever, and how that's being handled, and especially in reference to like Tennessee, right? So with this, I would say because of that, and then of course, like we talked about too in previous weeks, the preseason not being there to kind of work out some
yeah.
of these things is really showing.
Oh,
Speaking of which, you did.
it's showing. It's definitely showing.
Speaking of which, you said something about a half hour or so ago. You said that all the teams that we expected to win yesterday won their games. Um, I will say this: the biggest shock out of yesterday for me was the Eagles.
I wasn't shocked.
Really,
Here,
I
here,
gotta hear though. This I gotta
here's
hear.
why. Here's why I wasn't shocked. First off, you know as well as I do, if the Eagles have nothing else going for them, they're going to have a defense. Here's where it played into their hands. Key
Hmm.
offensive players for the 49ers were hurt. Most hurt, Garoppolo, those are your top two because you need the running game, and Garoppolo's accurate enough and smart enough to manage the game to where they don't have to worry when it's crunch time, meaning
Hmm.
5, 6, 7 minutes left in the game, you're behind, you may have to score a touchdown because Garoppolo can actually do that. Here's where he failed because now you don't have them. And because you don't have them,
True.
who is Garoppolo's backup? I don't even know. But
Oh
with that being said, not being funny, it wasn't being funny when I said that. But with that being said, uh, defensively, the Eagles have enough. Shows you how this goes. Uh, the Eagles are now in first place in the NFC East, bro.
after that, yesterday.
Dallas is 1-3, 1-4.
Oh, because they had that tie with Cincinnati, so that puts them
Yeah.
ahead.
Now think
Oh my
about if they
goodness.
win that. Think about if Philly wins that game. They're now 2 games above Dallas and Washington,
That's
even though Washington took the first one, if I'm not mistaken.
oh
And
man. And
Washington just got stomped by Baltimore. So
and then the
there you
Giants
go.
don't have a win yet, right?
Exactly. We already knew the Giants were going to stink.
Man, that division is trash right now. Because you figure like even looking
Everybody,
at
everybody's hurt. That's the thing. Everybody's hurt.
that's
Everybody,
crazy.
everybody in New York is hurt outside of the quarterback Jones.
Wow.
Everybody's hurt. Your star, your face of the franchise running back is hurt. He's out for the season. Yeah, you got what's the name, but he's not Saquon Barkley. He's
No, he's
not.
not.
He can make plays, but Saquon can change the game, and that's what in that division. That's what New York is gonna need. Don't have it.
Mhm.
1-2-1 is Philadelphia's record right now. They are in first place of the division,
Oh my goodness.
and they have given up, and they've actually given up the third most points in that division. Out of all four teams, they've given up the third most points in that division for the season. The most
And
the most that's given up is Dallas. They've given up 146. So
you know the
here's
what?
here's the PF and here's the PF. Not to cut you off, but here's the
You
PF and
good?
PA for each team in the NFC East. Philly's at the top, 84 points for, 107 points against. Washington's right behind them with 79 and 112. Dallas is behind Washington with 126, but they gave up 146. And New York, and I believe it or not, giving up the least amount of points, but they've scored the least amount of points as well. 47 points for, 96. Yeah, 96 points against.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, like I said, I was not surprised at this. I wasn't because as you know, it's always a dogfight. It's always a dogfight in the NFC East. With Carson Wentz being halfway healthy through the first part of the season, and I'm knocking on wood because I don't want to jinx the man, but Carson Wentz is arguably the second best quarterback in that division.
True.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Haskins is way up there, but that division quarterback wise belongs to Dak still because Dak is the most prolific passer in that division. He averaged five. He gave what 500 yards yesterday against the Browns.
503.
So yeah. So uh, if you were gonna, because I for real don't doubt the 49ers. I know Garoppolo's coming back. He's got to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Mostert's going to come back. So they're going to have, and they still have enough on defense. Um, they're going to be okay until they get into the bulk of their division when they have to see Seattle, the Rams, and the Cardinals.
Yep.
Now, if you were going to steal a win from Philly, from the 49ers, my bad. If you were going to steal a win from San Francisco, this would have been the game because everybody's hurt. Everybody of importance is hurt.
True.
And because everybody of importance is hurt, you got an opportunity. Remember how we talked about the Lakers, and because of COVID, if LeBron was going to steal a championship, this would have been the year. This is the same thing. If you're going to steal a win from a team that you might see in the playoffs, or you probably are going to see in the playoffs most likely, because it's been a funny ass year. This would be a game to steal because this game, truth be told, in the NFC could be the difference between third place and a wild card spot.
That's true too. Because look at this schedule, man.
Yeah,
You know, you got the NFC East has an agreement with the AFC North this season.
and
So Eagles
next week they got the Steelers.
after a week off too,
Right.
because of the
Next week.
dang on postponed game. So they're
Right.
gonna be
So next week
super fresh.
here is okay, two, 1-2-1 is their record. They tied with the Bengals. So here's the
Yep.
remaining. I'll give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And let's
I'll give
not
it
forget they gotta play Pittsburgh this Sunday, and then turn around and play the Ravens the following Sunday.
exactly. I was just about to read off the next 6 games, and the
I ain't
Patriots
trying to be that team.
The Patriots just threw another interception, so it's Kansas City ball. 2:26 left in the game.
That's
It's it's ugly, man.
it's a wrap, dog.
And here's a stat line for you that I'm reading right now. No team in NFL history has started 4-0 in four consecutive seasons. If the Chiefs hold on to win, they will be one of the actually they will be the first team to start 4-0 in the four seasons in
That's
NFL
crazy.
history. So back to the Eagles and the 49ers game. Here's well, not San Francisco, but here's Philadelphia's next six games. They're at Pittsburgh, then
Mm.
they host the Ravens, they host the Giants. So they got a three-game homestand after they go to Pittsburgh. The Ravens, the Giants, and the Cowboys. Then they turn around and go back to the Cowboys, and they come here in Cleveland to play the Browns. And every team that
Mm.
they're playing outside of the Giants and the Cowboys is on fire right now. So if you needed a
Right.
game to steal, you better steal this one from the 49ers. Because this might have been the only chance you get within the next 6 weeks to steal a game.
And I was just about to say that too, because when you look at their schedule after the bye week, I mean, you got teams that's hot right now. You got two games with the Giants, which gives them an advantage a little bit. The Cowboys are looking for revenge. And then on top of that, you still got the Seahawks, then you got the Packers, then you got the Saints,
Don't forget the Cardinals now. The
and the
Cardinals ain't bad either.
Cardinals. Right. That's because like it's like I feel bad for them, man. I thought Cleveland had a challenging schedule at one point.
They, but
I'm
they always give Cleveland the hardest schedule. That's no secret. They've been
it's
giving
not.
Cleveland the hardest. They've been giving Cleveland the hardest schedule since they came back. So this ain't nothing new. But for Philly, when you look at that game, uh, Mullins
My
threw for
goodness.
200 yards
Hmm.
for San Francisco. Uh, Mullins threw for 200 yards. He threw one touchdown, but he threw two interceptions. Carson Wentz threw for 193, one touchdown, one interception. Sanders carried the ball for 46 yards as opposed to McKinnon for the 49ers rushing for 54 yards, but he also had a touchdown. George Kittle, we knew he did, he did his thing. He had 183 yards and one touchdown. So it wasn't that the offense was bad. It was just the Eagles had enough. Which is why I wasn't surprised. So like I said last week, if you pay attention to how things are going as far as COVID is concerned, you can't sit there and just believe that your team is going to have enough. You're looking at the Browns right now. They can't. They're outscoring people, which is why they've won the last 3 weeks. This is something that they have to do in the
Hmm.
NFC for teams like the Eagles, who are in a weak division at the moment, because that division can turn around within the next couple of weeks. But at the moment, they're tops of the division, and they got one of the worst records. You got one win, two losses, and a tie with the sorry ass Bengals. So I'm again, I'm not surprised that they won this game because they did score 14 points in the fourth quarter, which is something that they needed to do, and
True.
they held off San Fran's offense. You know, Kittle doing his thing. Kittle almost had 200 yards, man.
As a tight end.
As a tight end, not even as a tight end. This is gonna call him a receiver because, truth be told, the tight end position is not what it used to be when we were kids.
That's true.
It's not. Like tight ends back then was 250 pounds. They barely caught the ball. Uh, Shannon Sharp was arguably the smallest tight end as far as weight was concerned,
True.
and Tony Gonzalez was arguably had the best hands of any tight end. So that was the last of a dying breed. Now, I I do see at some point Dallas getting their shit together. I don't see it happening right now, but I do see it coming. And when they do, because look at reality, they can score points. They're just shitty starters. Now, if they correct that and the defense does what they've been doing, which is trying to keep them in the game, the division could turn. You
True.
know, and Washington. When you look at that Washington Cleveland game, Washington ain't bad. They're not bad. It's just it's a young team. is younger than most teams would have been in Washington in the past. You got a young
True.
quarterback. You don't have Rex Grossman anymore, dare I say, or somebody of that nature. So with and Haskins is coming along slowly but surely.
Hmm.
And again, it's New York. New York is, dare I say, bipolar. But they'll get a win or two, maybe three.
True.
So take advantage. If I was Philly, I'd take advantage of this. Because
You have to.
your schedule looks like shit coming up. It's ugly. You got to go. You got to try to win Pennsylvania. Hope Baltimore don't run circles around you. And honestly, to be honest with you, I think that Baltimore Philly game is going to be better than people expect.
I can see that. Just the way
Just
that both teams have their styles, and then defensively, like you said, earlier, we don't give the Eagles defense enough credit
you don't.
for what they've been able to do so far this season. Because at the end of the day, with the exception of the Rams game, they haven't really allowed a lot of points.
They haven't. But the Rams game, like I said, uh, we talked about it, and it still holds weight to this day. Uh, you knew because of COVID,
Hmm.
you knew this season was going to be ugly the first half of the season. If not,
Right.
I was giving it like the first 3 or 4 weeks, but it's already about to be week 5, so you knew the season was going to be ugly. But to be this ugly for some teams, it's not normal. The Giants
Hmm.
haven't won a game, and usually they win a game by at least week 3.
Right.
They're not, and the NFL is built for you to at least win 3 games, even if you suck. So to see them struggling the way that they have, losing Barkley for the season, it just shows you how bad COVID has really hit everybody in every sport. And I feel like when this is all said and done, the Super Bowl is going to be, for me, in my personal opinion, the Super Bowl is going to be the most asterisk and yet hard earned Super Bowl for whoever wins it, because the asterisk is going to come because of the the COVID outbreak, but the hard earned
Hmm.
part is going to be because whoever makes it, they deserve it. Whoever wins
Exactly.
it, whoever wins it, there's no question. The only asterisk you're gonna have by your championship is because it was during an outbreak.
And not only that, I believe that this year could be those years where we see a team that we weren't even expecting to be there at this point.
Of course.
I wouldn't say both sides. Like I don't think it's going to be a team coming out of both the AFC and NFC that we didn't expect, but I feel like one of those two teams would be a sleeper that we had
I could
no
see that,
idea at all. Like
and
here's
I
some
I,
what's crazy.
I
You're
totally
going
believe
to.
that.
I even got something crazier for you because there was a couple of guys I was talking to about this, and they were looking at who they believe would be a candidate for like MVP this year. There are some names that I feel like people aren't even talking about that we may actually need to look at. One of those names, Josh Allen.
I could see that. I had
Josh
one.
Allen
I
from
had one for you
Buffalo.
too. I got Chubb as an MVP candidate.
Before he got hurt, yeah, I can see that.
Even with that, I got Chubb as an MVP candidate, and the reason I have Chubb as an MVP candidate because you're playing, and this is the truth, and you can, whoever's watching, whoever's gonna watch, you can argue with me all you want, but right now the AFC North is the toughest division in all of the NFL.
Hands down.
Everybody in the division has 3 wins or more, with the exception of the Bengals, and the Bengals just got their first win.
And Burrow has actually thrown for 300 a game
Exactly.
coming in as a rookie. He's
So
getting better every game. So
and, and we not whoa, we never said he was gonna stink. I said he was gonna struggle
right.
because of that offensive line. He was gonna get beat up.
Oh right.
I knew he was gonna
Yeah, that
get
line's
beat up. I didn't say he was gonna stink, but we knew. I did say he was gonna get beat up because that offensive line is not at the caliber of when Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton had it. And
Absolutely
Andy
not.
Dalton actually inherited Carson Palmer's line when Carson Palmer left. So um, I'm a firm believer this year during COVID, the AFC North is the toughest division. Everybody has 3 wins, with the exception of Cincinnati, and everybody still got to play each other. So that dogfight for the division it's about to be ugly.
Super.
And looking at it, the Browns going into the Colts game are averaging 39 points a game. When was the last time you've seen the Browns average 39 points a game going into week 5?
Never.
There you go.
And not even, and he's even looking back like in the 80s.
Yeah,
I
it's not
mean,
often.
because we got to remember too, like when the cardiac kids, man, was around, they had that similar feel to like what you kind of see what Dallas is doing right now when it came to like
Hmm.
their offense. Because if they were coming from behind, it was
It was
electric.
exciting. Yeah, it was
It was very
very
exciting.
exciting.
They were like a team that you had to like kind of beat down a little bit, and all of a sudden it was like this wake up out of nowhere, and
No,
you're like, look,
they would go back and sit in the huddle. Y'all ready to turn it on now?
right, it's just crazy, and to the point where you're like, dude, like my heart just can't take that. It's like if I'm a lose, let me get blown out. Don't let me lose by no 2 points.
No,
And if
one
I'm a
point.
win, let me stomp you if I'm a win. Like
Right.
that's just the mentality. But like, oh my goodness, man, seeing that yesterday had my heart going crazy. And then what you said about them being like them averaging that many points coming into the game, especially like the first half of the season. I mean, this is
That's
unheard of.
unbelievable.
And
Very
just credit to
unbelievable.
Stefanski and what he's doing, man. You know what
He
he's
ain't doing
doing.
that. He's not doing anything that we didn't already know you could do.
Oh,
And
that's true.
and the thing about it was for people that are Brown fans and for people that are, football fans in general, as an offensive coordinator, all you need your quarterback to do is manage the game. That's what you
Yep.
are. You're a
Yep.
manager. You hand the ball off, you throw it to who's open. If it's a deep pass and you know you can make it, you take the shot. If not, go for what's underneath. Y'all looking at for those of y'all that are looking at uh for y'all are look stat readers, yeah, it may look like Baker is throwing for less than 200 yards, maybe 300 yards a game. But the point is, he's not turning over the ball. Because he's not turning over the
Hmm.
ball, that means they're clock controlling. I mean, don't get me wrong, that second half was ugly for them, but there were times where they had the ball for 2, 3 minutes at a time, which is what you need to do to stop an offense like Dallas. And that's
Yep.
what they did. And in the first half of that game, they were getting stops, they were getting turnovers. But even though it wasn't consistent on my level or to my liking, they were still doing it. And that was the part where I was telling, our friends, our mutual friends, y'all need to pay attention. That offense that Stefanski's running is something you would have saw back in the 90s.
Yep. They compared
So,
it to the one that Aikman was a part of,
yeah, and
the Cowboys then.
the only difference was the Browns have arguably the most star power that they've ever had on the team outside of the Jim Brown era.
Yep.
You got two two juiced up wide receivers. And what I mean by juiced up is at any point, as we saw yesterday, any point one of them two could take over the game. Odell and Jarvis hooked up for a 37-yard touchdown trick play pass to start the game. Then Odell took over again with a 50-yard reverse. And I
Yep.
wrote this in my article. If y'all ain't, if you say lightning don't strike twice, y'all obviously have not seen Odell against the Cowboys. Every time
That's what I was
Odell
trying to tell everybody.
Every time Odell play the Cowboys, Odell show out.
Man, every single
One-handed,
time.
the one-handed catch, long ass touchdowns. Dude, when was the last time outside of a Tecmo Bowl or a Madden game have you seen a wide receiver run and not in college? Have you seen a wide receiver run a 50-yard touchdown pass or a touchdown run on a reverse?
I
When?
can't even tell you.
Exactly.
And then
And
on
it's
top of that, man, I was telling Cass this yesterday. I said, this man had flashbacks of being in a Giants uniform.
Right.
He had to play Dallas twice a year for 6 seasons.
Years
It is very familiar for him to be
in
in
Jerry
that
World.
building. Right. I was like, y'all don't understand what's about to happen today. I kept trying to tell people, like, that's familiar territory for this man, you know? Now, granted, he's creating some new memories because he's on a different team. But historically, from the time frame he left LSU
To the
to
time
now,
he even
he's
killed the
probably
Cowboys.
right. He's had the most success again. Man, come on now. You already know what I'm talking about, man. It was just like, come on, y'all. And then the stuff that
For
Jarvis was laying out for yesterday. Did you see the catches that man was making yesterday?
told you they
Man,
Jarvis came. If you watched, and this was probably the only time I watched the Hard Knock show. If you saw that meeting that Jarvis held, Jarvis was serious, man. That shit's about to change. And I was nervous for the other teams in the AFC North because he was serious. He was very serious. He was in Miami. Granted, it's a bad situation, and it's
hmm
not his fault. But
no, it's not
you, all you had was Ryan Tannehill. You didn't have a running game, so you and Tannehill were basically all the team had. Had
true.
a had a had an okay defense, but didn't have enough to keep up with the Patriots, keep up with the Bills, keep up with the Jets.
Yeah.
And you get to Cleveland, it's a fresh start, and you're like, yeah, I'm about to take over. This shit's about to end. It was basically how I felt playing semi-pro when I left the Invaders and I went to the Vikings, and I had to see the Vikings twice a year. Oh man, I'm about to put y'all out of business. It's revenge time. I used to tell the coach, don't take me out. If you can take me out at any game, anytime we play in the Invaders, don't take me out. And that's exactly what Odell did yesterday. Anytime I see a star on the helmet, I'm about to show my ass. And he
hmm
did. And it's not going to, as long as he's with Cleveland, it's not going to stop. Now he's got his best friend. Now I'm nervous. I don't care what anybody say about anybody else. I'm nervous. I don't care.
And
Baltimore was smart. That
yeah,
Baltimore game was smart. You catch Cleveland early. You had they didn't really stick to the run like they were supposed to because the run actually was working. Now
hmm
that Stefanski sees, he knew it, but it's different when you actually see what happens against the team. So
right.
he saw that it was working against the Ravens. But now that you see that it really works, and what I mean by really works is Chubb goes for 100, Hunt goes for 80, whoever else behind him goes for 60 and 40. That's damn near 300 yards, bro.
And here's another stat for you. So when you incorporate that offense and you look at the way that Bill Callahan has set up the blocking scheme in the zone run, and then you take a bunch of running backs that have a one cut style and you put them into that because you want to talk about system players, dog. When I
Every
heard them
last
talking about that yesterday, every last one of them has a one cut style. So you drafted them specifically. Then you take the gaps that Callahan purposely puts on his line. This is the same thing that worked when Orlando Pace was with him and Rich Gannon with the Raiders. Going back a little bit here, okay, who was the oldest team in the NFL? No one said that would work. Nobody said that would work. They were
and it
like, these
worked.
dudes old. They got all the way to the Super Bowl. Rod Wilson out there with it. Rod Wilson, dog. Jerry Rice, Rich Gannon. Like,
But that was a different thing. That was something nobody was expecting.
nobody was
Now
expecting that. No.
now that the game has evolved, you make it if you're a college team, well, I'm not even gonna say if you're a college team. If you're Bill Callahan now, you're wondering why this shit couldn't work at like Colorado or something.
Well, yeah, that's true, too. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of college, it's the week. It's a big week in college, man. I know we ain't got a lot of time, but I did want to touch this. It's a big week in college, bro. This weekend. For starters, since you
hmm
got on the since you got on the uh a Georgia hoodie, they
Had
play
to,
number
man.
they play number 14 Tennessee. Tennessee comes to town,
hmm
and Tennessee ain't looking bad this year, man.
They're not. And that's actually a scary game, man. Believe it or not. That's a scary game. It always is a
Especially
scary game.
especially
Tennessee's
coming
always
off
a game.
Auburn win, where I got to give you credit. The defense was dog walking Auburn, man. I did not
I
expect
do.
them to. I didn't expect them to beat on Bo Nix like that. I didn't.
Look, let me tell you with that. So here's the reason why I was so nervous this past weekend because Georgia has a kind of defense where they get better as the season goes on.
Yeah,
It's never at that level week two. I will tell you that for a fact. Week two, I was like, look, I don't even know what they're going to do on defense. And on top of that, I wasn't sure that the corners would show out the way that they did because that's been a big concern the last 3 years with this team. And the quarterback situation. We're like, who's the starter? I don't know. Now, maybe they knew, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But when you have like Stetson Bennett, you got JT Daniels who just got cleared, right? DeJuan Mathis, you don't know who you're going to use. It's a unique situation because as a defensive coordinator, you're like, who am I preparing for? I don't know.
exactly.
Maybe it's this
But I
guy. Maybe it's this guy. Bennett clearly is a starter now.
but
Okay.
I think that worked to their advantage against
It
Auburn
did.
because you don't know, and because you
Right.
don't know, and they don't know, it was like, all right, I can use this up until game time, make it a game time decision because
Hmm.
you know what they did. This is going back a little further. This is actually what John Cooper was trying to do with Ohio State,
Yeah.
but he didn't know how to do it. I got
Yep.
Stanley Jackson. I got Joe Germain. Joe's the better passer, but Stanley's the better all around quarterback.
Hmm.
So, I could use it, but by that time he had figured it out. Everybody had film on both, you
Yep.
know. So, it's working better than it did 20, 25 years ago.
True. That's very true. And on top of that, man, I'll let it be the last thing about this game. When you said film, because looking at these guys, there's no real film on Dewan Mathis. JT Daniels, you got some film, but that was USC. That wasn't a Georgia uniform.
Exactly.
And
That
then
was
with Stetson Bennett, he was the backup to Fromm. When was Stetson Bennett getting in the game?
never
Never.
because
Right.
he
What,
had
what
to
film
because
you got?
Fromm had to stay in the game, whether
Right.
it was a
Like what?
blowout or the game was close. He had to stay.
Exactly. So you have no film on any of these dudes. So we'll see how it plays out, man. We'll see.
And the Packers just scored on the doubleheader for Monday Night Football. Packers scored Rogers to Tuttle, Robert Tanyan, my bad, excuse me, Robert Tanyan, 19-yard touchdown. They're going up 14-3.
Mm,
Falcons
mm.
are terrible.
Oh my gosh, they're bad.
Okay, moving on. It was three big games I wanted to talk about, or at least touch, and that was the first one, Georgia and Tennessee. The second one was Alabama taking on Ole Miss. Nick
Ooh.
coming to see Lane Kiffin.
Mm.
Now, I'm I'm just gonna call it what it is, man. This is a scary game for Nick Saban. This is a very scary game because Lane Kiffin knows you. Granted, Lane Kiffin
Yep.
don't have the team that Nick Saban has, but Lane Kiffin knows you. And if you fuck up, well, I ain't gonna say you as a coach. If your team fucks up and lets Mississippi stay in this game, it's gonna get ugly. And I hope it don't turn into a nail biter because Florida let Mississippi stick around for that first half, and they
Hmm.
were struggling. Now that you see that you can move the ball against a team like Florida, imagine what he's thinking about what he can do against somebody he knows mentally. I've worked for this man. I've worked with this man. I know what he's gonna do.
Yep.
It's That's a scary game to look out for, and and it's a prime time game too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, it's a 6 o'clock game, and
I
you're
can tell.
at if you're Mississippi, you are glad to be at home.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're looking to probably capitalize, if not cause, obviously, as many turnovers as possible.
Damn
Because
yeah, yeah.
with
You're
Alabama, they're a kind of team where like, and this is just saving ball in general. You give them any kind of opportunity, they're going to capitalize on that. You
right.
can't give them those opportunities. But the flip side of that is they can't have that taken away from them either. There's a lot of
Exactly.
games where we don't see them have that happen, but when it does, they completely get rattled, and it's a different game.
Because they're not
So,
used to it, and they're
nope.
and and this is what bothers me about people who. Okay, let's start over. Yes,
Okay.
we are all fans of football, but this is what I hate about fans who don't pay attention to the sport. Yeah, Alabama, the SEC is arguably the best conference to breed professional football players, like NFL ready guys. But that's only the top tier. Bama,
Yep.
LSU, Georgia, Florida. Who else you got after? Maybe Auburn. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Florida. Who else you got after that? It's not.
I
It's
mean,
not an
the only
even
exception
field.
was Miles Garrett. That was the only
Exactly.
exception.
And that's still my gripe too. Texas A&M and Missouri should not be in that. That was the dumbest move. Like I'm still I'm still trying to figure out why they made that move. Why
I
of
don't
all
get it.
places for Texas A&M? Why of all places would you go to the SEC? That's not your game. You should have
It's
stayed your
not
silly asses in the Big 12.
in the Big 12.
For Missouri, okay, I can see that. You need to move. You need better recruiting. Go to the Big 10 because you are a Midwestern state. It only makes you getting beat on by Vanderbilt, man. They,
True.
I'm not being funny when I say logically.
It's real though. You make
Yeah,
Kentucky look good in football.
exactly. And Kentucky, a hooper school.
Hooper school. Oh,
Kentucky, Kentucky, Florida. Well, Florida's both, but Kentucky, uh, Vanderbilt. Dare I say, LSU and Auburn. They are both. They basketball and football. Missouri is not a Missouri's not a football. Is not a basketball school. You're not an
uh,
NFL ready school.
nope.
You have to your like Sean Coffey, Brad Smith. Those were the exceptions. But you you can't keep up with you can't recruit with these guys. You can't out recruit Nick Saban.
Nope.
You should have
Not even
took your ass
possible.
to the Big Ten like you were supposed to do. Because that was the best move. That would have been the better move for you because you can out recruit Northwestern. You can out recruit Nebraska.
In
You can
Illinois,
out recruit Illinois,
Indiana,
Indiana, Minnesota. Well, you can't out
man.
recruit Minnesota now, but
Now, well, yeah.
10 years ago you could have. When
Hmm.
you had the opportunity to join the Big Ten, you got a rivalry with Illinois. It's a border war. Why would you not go?
Yeah, I didn't get that move either, man. It made no sense
I
to me.
still don't get it.
I
I
don't
still
either.
don't. It makes no sense to do things like that. Actually, I take that back. It was 4 games because, yeah, next game would be number 5 Notre Dame against Florida State.
Mm.
Notre Dame joins the ACC for this year only. I get it. Makes sense because you're affiliated with them in basketball.
True.
You have traditional rivalries with Florida State. Uh, Florida State ain't been looking too good nowadays, especially after getting beat on by rival Miami.
Oh man,
I'm still, I still jump about that one. That was awesome.
for that to be a rivalry game and a deep rivalry game, and then you to get embarrassed like that, that was an embarrassment.
It was a night game too. That's the best part about it.
Right. Everybody saw your game. Everybody saw
Man,
it.
no, everybody saw you get your ass whooped.
No cable, like you. That was the worst,
Man, uh, and it's at Notre Dame. It's at Notre Dame Stadium.
man. Okay.
You're in the shadow of touchdown Jesus. I don't see I don't see Notre Dame falling off right now,
Hmm.
but I will say if Florida State could put enough together, this could be a decent game to watch. Not a good game, but a decent game because Florida State has had moments where
True.
they look like a good team or look like they could be a good team. But on the other hand, because of COVID, a lot of players opted out, transferred, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't see, Notre Dame's offense slowing down at this point. Now, mind you, Notre Dame is still undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah,
But
I don't
if I'm
think they've
not
been beat.
mistaken, Notre Dame is undefeated, and they've got convincing wins over Duke and South Florida. Granted, it's South Florida, but still, you got to remember uh, Notre Dame is an independent traditionally. So, you know,
True.
discredit. I'm not going to discredit South Florida for playing or for them for playing Florida rather, but that was a great tune-up game for them going into what would have been the Wake Forest game that got postponed. So they'll push that back later in the season. But now you got Florida
Hmm.
State coming to town. So you've had extra practice and you coming off of 52 to nothing win against South Florida. So you've had enough time to prepare for a Florida State team who hasn't played up to traditional Florida State standard. And mind you, they're going to need this game and they need to win this game, in my opinion, because right after that, they got a feisty Louisville team coming in, and then they got to go to
Hmm.
Pitt, and then after that, they got Georgia Tech and the big one at home against Clemson.
Mm.
So I don't see, like I said, I don't see Notre Dame dropping off this game, but I do think they need to play balls out in order to show Clemson, if not the country, it's going to be a tough ACC schedule because as it looks right now, if there is conference championships, I do think Clemson will be in it. It's just a matter of who gets the honor of getting beat on by Clemson.
That's true. That's very true. And then, like we were talking about before, too, just seeing the way that Miami put the beat down on Florida State and seeing them like get back into rare form. Because for a while, man, we've all talked about the U a lot of times, man, in our conversations on the show. And even though I'm not like a fan, at the same time, you have to respect the greatness that came out of these different schools, right? What they've been doing for so long, and to see the fall of them, and to hopefully now us witnessing maybe a rise in that program, it would just be nice for them to get back to that point. Because I know for me personally, I would love to see these different teams who we watched growing up that were dominating people and giving that business, whether it be them having like let's say a down year because of recruiting and then coming back, you knew they're still going to be decent. So teams like the U, teams like USC, I would love to see come back at some point. Also, I would dare say a team like in the Big Ten, like Iowa, bounce back and do some things. So my thing is
Iowa, you
like,
can forget.
well, yeah, at this point, yeah, what they
Iowa,
got
you
going
can
on,
forget. But USC, I'm with you on because you know I've never cared for USC, but watching USC in the watching USC in the Pac-12 now is so much. It's so different than
yeah,
watching it when we were kids. Like watching them beat on everybody in the the Pac-10 back then, so much more different. Like
yeah,
then you saw the surgence of Oregon, the surgence of Maurice Jones-Drew and UCLA and
hmm,
Mercedes Lewis. I I would like to see that, but as far as like seeing Iowa jump back, don't count on that one. I'm sorry
yeah.
because
I think
it's
their
with
legacy is torn, man.
yeah with everything going on in Iowa, it's not happening. They're probably I hate to make it sound racial, but it is
Mhm.
because you've been outed. You've been ratted out. You've treated all your black players like shit.
And that's one of them things where once you get word of that, and especially with how active the younger generation is when it comes to stuff like that,
Yeah, you can
that's going
forget
to be
it.
the school to avoid.
Right, especially in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
All right. And then our last game that I wanted to touch on for this weekend, number one Clemson Number 7, Miami
Mm.
at Clemson. Unfortunately for
Oh,
Miami, it's a Death Valley. Unfortunately, but Miami's coming off a 52 to nothing win against rival Florida State, and that was a rivalry game, believe it or not. No, it didn't look like it, but you're undefeated. You've had really good showings against really good teams or really decent teams.
hmm
Uh, UAB still fresh off of coming back after a hiatus. You won 31 to 14. You beat Louisville in the shootout 47-34, and then you drubbed Florida State 52 to 10. Sorry, I didn't realize that Florida State had scored in that game.
yeah,
You have you have a winnable schedule after, according to you, with the exception of the the UNC game at the end of the season, you have a winnable schedule after the Clemson game. So this would be the game that you want to show everybody you're for real. You want to show if you're Manny Diaz that you can coach the U. Mind you, Ed Reed is a consultant on the team now.
mm. Okay,
So he's on the sideline. You saw him on the sideline talking to DBs and players at the Florida State game. So, you know, the older generation is coming back like and giving back like they've been doing for so many years.
true.
Um, but if you're Miami, if you're Manny Diaz, you got to pull a rabbit out your ass. That's just my personal opinion. You have to. Because if you, for the sake of the conversation, if they do come back with the college football playoff, now that the Pac 12 and the Big Ten are back in, Power Five conferences are really all that you needed. So if they do come back with the college playoff and you do have a chance to play for a national championship, you need this game. You need to steal this game. Not only
hmm
does it fuck up Clemson, but now you shook up the whole top five, top six, to where if they do go 16, 18 playoffs, you're in. No matter what, you're in. As long as you finish in the top 10 or top six, you're in. Even if you don't finish in the top five, you're still in my opinion, because you just beat the number one team in the country
hmm
at their place, and you might have had a good showing. See, remember, when we were kids, it was whoever was on your schedule. You beat them. Whoever finished 1 and 2, that's who have at it, depending
True.
on how the AP voters went. But now, and then you skip to the BCS, is whoever finished 1 and 2. Now, your strength of schedule doesn't. It's not going to be your end all be all. But if you beat the number one team, you can't be ignored now.
Very
So,
true.
and here's the schedule for Miami after they play Clemson: Pitt, VA, NC State, Virginia Tech, which is a rivalry game, so it's kind of a trap game.
hmm
Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and UNC. UNC right now is currently ranked number 8. So at the moment, according to the top 25, the Hurricanes will have one, two, three, 4 teams in the top 25 on their schedule. Two of them they play in the top 10, assuming UNC can keep up their momentum.
hmm
Starting with this weekend against Clemson, if I'm I'm really in my heart, something's telling me that this could be a trap game for Clemson. I think Clemson's looking past them, and because Clemson's looking past them, I think Miami could catch them slipping. And I hope Manny Diaz has a game plan that fits what they need to do in order to stop Etienne, uh, Trevor Lawrence, and that offense. If they do, they have a good defense. That defense is feisty, and they fight,
Very feisty. They do.
and they fight. They don't just be physical; they fight. So the defense is there, and De'Aaron King has been playing lights out. If they keep De'Aaron King upright, it's a it's gonna be a fight in that game, and I don't think Clemson's gonna be ready for it.
I feel like this game could be a lot closer than most people think. Um, just the way that Miami's playing right now, they have a confidence about themselves they probably didn't have before the season started. I feel like they believe they could, but at the same time, you just gotta play things out to really know what you're going up against and really know where you stand. And if this would be, their fourth game, not the first game, okay,
Right,
that
right.
says a lot too because those first games, man, you're like, okay, we get to look to see what does and doesn't work with this offense, what doesn't work with the defense, and looking at their play and how they've done so far, you figure with them knocking off UAB, Louisville, and then Florida State, each game they played, they've scored more points. And then Louisville was the only team that scored more than 14 points on them so far this season. Now, I guess talent wise, you got to go, okay, none of those teams are on the same level of Clemson, talent wise, on the offensive side of the ball. But at the same time, regardless of who you are, when you put up 52 points,
52 points
it
is pretty
definitely is
good.
a state. It's 52 points. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that and seeing Clemson, and you're like, okay, that's them going to Death Valley. That's not going to be an easy game, obviously, but it's prime time. It's just a different feel, man, different smell in the air, man. You already know how this plays out. At the same time, though, like you said, they're not looking at them as a threat. They're like, oh, it's Miami. It's cool.
Right.
They haven't been whatever in the last 5, 10 years, whatever. They're looking past them. And we've seen teams slip up that look past these teams. So, first of all, last year
Penn
you think
State.
about Penn State, Minnesota. I said that. I'm like, they're looking past them boys. They call them slipping, right? Then you had a little bit of a scare when OSU played Penn State, and then looking past them too. It's just like, look, you can't look past these teams, man. I get it. You're like, okay, paper looks one way. You're not hearing a lot about them. You're not seeing them do anything real spectacular on film. None of that stuff matters, man. You cannot look past these teams you got scheduled, regardless of where they rank and regardless of how they recruited. So I'm
And
thinking this game's gonna be a lot closer, man. What people think.
keep in mind when you informed me that they were going to conference only games, I told you you're gonna see and find out about a lot of these teams when
Hmm.
the season starts because you ain't got no tune-up game. If
Nope.
maybe uh BYU because BYU is an independent technically.
Yeah. Yep.
Notre Dame was an independent, but their schedule got screwed up because the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC are their traditional rivalry conferences.
True.
So they had to do something. And to me, I'm going to be honest. Honestly, in Notre Dame's favor, the smarter thing, if they wanted to go undefeated, because I don't think that they'll go undefeated because they still have to see Clemson, so that might be their
Hmm.
only blemish. But I felt like the best chance they had for them to go undefeated would have been to join the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, for sure,
But
man.
because they didn't, and they're an affiliate by basketball rights with the ACC, this made more sense for them, and I understand that.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna say, you know, football wise, college football wise, COVID's been a blessing and a curse because you get to see, well, you and me as fans get to see who really has it and who really needs to get it together. Because we all know Clemson beating on the Citadel, man. Come on, that's just stupid.
Right. Why you can schedule a game that late anyway?
Not even schedule the game late. Why would you even pick a team like that? The Citadel, man. When was the last time the Citadel ever won a national championship? I can't think of one.
Bro, I forgot
You,
they had a football team.
it's a good school,
Yeah.
good basketball school too, by the way. But they don't have the talent that Clemson has. Why would you even put them on your schedule? Now you
It
got to
didn't make
play.
sense.
It didn't. It didn't when Bama did it.
Man.
It didn't when Bama did it. It didn't when Clemson did it. It didn't make sense at all. Uh, I get it. You want teams to beat up on to see how you look on film and on the field, but he, the good thing about COVID was that it was a blessing and a curse to some teams, and it was a blessing for us as journalists and fans. Because I told you when this happened, and you informed me that they were going to conference only. I'm like, bro, it's gonna be an ugly ass season for a lot of people because they don't have a
Mhm.
tune up game. And because they don't have a tune up game and you going right into conference play, somebody getting beat. What
And
happened?
here's oh
LSU
yeah,
went down
LSU,
one.
Mississippi State. Ooh,
LSU went down. Bama don't look the same.
at
They
home,
might
by the way.
right. LSU did lose at home, and again, Mississippi State is a SEC team, but they're not traditionally on the caliber of LSU, Auburn, Georgia, Bama,
No,
Florida. They're not. So you saw right away somebody going down. Didn't expect it to be the defending champs week 1, but it happened.
right.
And it can happen again. Because, like I said, these tune up games mean everything to these teams. And because you don't have them and you going right into conference play, this means your shit got to be together right now, not 3 weeks from now. The
And here's
minute they
one.
say go, your shit got to be on point.
And here's another one for you. Looking at Clemson's schedule, because like you said, you got Georgia Tech after this, Syracuse, Boston College, Notre Dame coming up later on, Florida State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. Looking at their schedule, right, it's more favorable for Miami after this game than it is.
I told
Well,
you it
not more
was.
favorable. But then on top of that, too, when you look at this, if there was a game for Clemson to be upset, this would be that game.
Actually, it's two. I told you. Uh, assuming Notre Dame keeps their momentum,
Well, yeah, assuming that.
assuming that they do going into that Clemson game, they could slip up twice.
That's true.
I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen because Clemson is very well coached and they're a very well disciplined team. But as we've seen in the early college football season, weird shit can happen. And
Not to,
Miami beating on Florida State was a sign to me that it is very, very possible if Miami does what they need to do defensively and De'Aaron King stays upright and makes good decisions with the ball, it is very possible. Now, you move down to that Notre Dame game, it's the same thing. Notre Dame, past couple of years, to their credit, because they are independent, they have been battle tested. They may not have the best record,
mhm.
but they've always been battle tested because you run an independent schedule. Every team you play ain't gonna be a cupcake
And they
because you
played
may
some really
have
good defenses.
right. And Ian Book has only thrown one interception this year, but he's got a great running back behind him. He's got a great receiver he can throw to. Uh, and here's a crazy stat for you: Notre Dame is only allowing 6 points a game currently. Clemson's
Well,
allowing 12.
right, and a big part of that is because of them. Well, we're not even gonna talk about the Citadel game, but the thing is, last week they gave 23 to Virginia. Very interesting. Okay.
But Virginia was going into that game trying to get revenge anyway.
Oh yeah, they look for that game. No matter what level it is, no matter what the lopsidedness of the talent and all of that, that's the game that Virginia looking for every year. They're like,
They
man,
tired. They tired of getting beat
they
on.
sick of it. Right. They're done. They're like, we done with this crap. We don't care. And to see them put 23 up on them, I'm like, okay, I see what y'all doing. And it makes me look at this next game like they did put
And
23 up on y'all. I'm just saying
Miami been putting up over 30.
consistently,
Yeah, very
consistently.
consistently.
So I'm looking forward to this game. It's gonna be this
Yeah,
for me. This is the game of the week for me.
it is. Oh, it's already the game of the week. You know that. Herb streak. Herb Street and Chris Fowler are gonna be on that game. So
Hmm.
uh, I'm really, I'm really at a point in my head where this game, them two games for Clemson spell trouble. And if people are watching this and y'all don't believe me, just think about this. Think about how Clemson was middle of the pack before they got to where they are now. And you remember, Clemson's been an ACC team forever.
Hmm.
They haven't won a championship, not an ACC, but a national championship since the 70s, 80s. So, the purple and orange got their work cut out for them against these two teams. And I'm really feeling like uh, this this might be the year Clemson gets upset during the regular season. And
Hmm.
it might mess up a lot for them if they lose one of those games or both.
Yeah, I think it's very possible, man. So for those of you out there is watching, tune into this game because we're gonna be following it close, and I hope y'all gonna be doing the same thing. But this is definitely the one to watch this week.
All right. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this topic, but I did want to touch it because you brought it to my attention. Texans fire Bill O'Brien. Um, we talked about this earlier, and honestly, we all knew it was coming. And I can't say that I'm surprised because you knew, going into this
Hmm.
that Bill O'Brien, according to some of his reports or reports on him and some of the locker room reports, that he was a POS. I'm not saying that he is because I don't know him personally, but that was what
Right.
was coming out of the locker room. Um, I don't see, I don't see how this is going to play out. But what I do see is that this might be the change that the Texans needed as far as the on field is concerned.
True.
Behind the scenes and in the front office is a different thing. But I think this might have been the turnaround that the Texans needed.
And to your point, man, we saw this coming because when we saw the trade, because that was the biggest thing that blew my mind was like for you to
Mm-hmm.
go from right, it don't make any sense. Like you went from winning your division to trading your top receiver to a team, and then also having to get from them David Johnson, an older David Johnson.
Right.
And I was sitting back looking like, okay, 5 years ago I would have liked that a little bit, but now I'm like, no. And then when that happened, I'm like, win your division and you give away your top receiver? That makes no sense to me. And then to see what they're doing now and to be 0-4, to be like, okay, what are we going to do at this point? Because the team's pretty much giving up on this coach. And like I said earlier, too, they waited a week longer than they probably should have
I
just to
think they
see if he
waited
would
too
do.
long.
Well, okay, I'll give you that part. Um, but like just to be nice from the owner perspective, probably was like, you know what? Let's see what he does because he did win us a division a year ago. Maybe that was a thought process. I have no idea. But at the same time, when this happened, I was like, yeah, they gave up on that dude. And I was surprised that it took that long for them to get rid of him. But at the same time, I just kind of feel as though with them having the team they currently have, right? They're not terrible. At the same time, the players just gave up on you. They let you go. They like, look, whatever we got to
Yeah,
do to get him out of here, let's just do it, right? So whoever comes in next, I think the players will definitely rally around them. They'll regroup themselves. I don't really see like a playoff berth happening this year, anything like that. But at the same time, I feel like with the talent they do have, they'll be back next year for sure. I kind of wonder who it is that's going to be taking over for them coming the next season. Um, but at the same time, they just gave up, man. They was like, "We done, we're good." And it's have
yeah,
so many people come out publicly and talk about it was like, because you figure there's a certain etiquette that you have on the team when it comes to what goes on in the locker room and what's being said and what's not being said. There's certain things that you just handle in house, and that house got torn
the house.
down. It crumbled, but that was it, right?
that house was fucked up when all those reports were coming out about how much of a POS Bill O'Brien was. So,
Hmm.
like we had talked about it, me and you was like, yeah, it's something's got to change unless it changes. Like, damn the trade, unless it changes culture wise,
Right.
it's gonna be a cluster bomb in there, and Bill O'Brien's gonna be the one to blame. And sure enough, Bill O'Brien's the one that got fired. So, hey, I mean, it happens, and with everything that's going on in the world now, everybody's true colors are being shown. So I don't, I don't think this is, you know, a bad thing. I
Hmm.
think it should have happened sooner because you know your owner is not always the nicest guy or the best guy in the Texans, but at the same time, they still are a good team,
Right.
and that's what's supposed to be important is the team. When your coach is the leader and that being screwed up, now you got a problem. So we'll see how they rally, and I hope they rally good and have a good rally because the season's still young, it's not over yet.
True.
See what happens.
And it's the AFC South.
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
mean, you got
Colts are leading
Jaguars and the Colts. Yeah.
Colts are leading the pack, so we'll see.
True.
And you still got the Titans to deal with, even though Titans got COVID.
Yeah, Titans. Yeah. Well, never mind. All right.
Right?
I forgot about them. Sorry. My bad. Nope.
It's
That's it.
cool. All right, folks. That's it for this episode of 4th to 15 with Mel and Smooth. We'd like to thank Chris Casamassa for being on and speaking with us. Um, Again, you guys have been very, very great watching us, supporting us. Please continue to do so. Don't forget to like us here on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. Catch earlier episodes. We are working on some more stuff for you guys, sports wise. But as right now, it's been a very fun ride. So, me personally, thank you guys very much. This Georgia fan over here, eh, but
Gotta rep. You gotta rep it, man. I like your
yeah.
shirt, by the way. I forgot to tell you that.
Oh man, yeah. You know, deep down, I'm not gonna say I'm a full fledged fan, but the times that they have had good teams with Colt Brennan, Timmy Chang,
Timmy
I had
Chang.
I had to. They were fun to watch. They were very fun to watch. Jimmy Joey Aloha, who's now in the league. I forget where he's at, but I know he's in the league. But
They actually tried to recruit me, by the way.
there ain't no recruiting to do. From what I was told, uh, they were giving scholarships out at one time. That's how they got Ashley Lilly. Like, he wasn't from Hawaii. I think he was from Cali, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
they're giving out of state kids full scholarships to come play. So I
You
would have took
know,
that.
I mean, for me, I didn't get the full. I had a half offer, and on top of that, it was like, yeah, looking back on it now, I feel like it would have been an opportunity. But at the same time, man, you know,
You
for
can't
me, it
live
was
there, but
like
you can damn sure say you went to school there.
that's what it really was about, man. And on top of that, I just at the time being that young, I didn't think I'd be able to handle being away from the fam that long because it's like a once a year thing coming back. Um, so, but we
Man,
do what we do, man. I wouldn't be
I'd have
here
hit
now.
I'd have hit them with the Marlon Wayans.
Hey,
Peace.
I
I'd
don't
have
even
been the
know.
first. I'd have been the first dude at Lake Erie with a surfboard.
I feel it. Yeah, bro.
I'd have brought that motherfucker back. Hey, when you seen this, then the first dude in the hood with a surfboard.
Exactly.
But we do appreciate you guys. Again, like we said, don't forget to like us here on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. We will keep you informed of who will be our next guest if we have one, because it's starting to be around the holiday season, so everybody's kind of like whatever. But just follow us, like us. Don't forget to check out our posts because that Urkel and Undercover Brother one is hilarious to me.
This is great.
It's your idea, so
Bruce Lee Urkel, bruh.
I can't.
I gotta go
I
back and
can't.
watch the episodes.
Oh Jesus. Well, thank you guys for watching again from Fourth and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I'm Mel. That's Smooth. Peace.